Yeah, dude, I wish I was a fucking robot and I could just replace a part, honestly.
Right?
Like, it just feels like it would be so much better to find like a metal knee in a junkyard than like deal with pissing blood. You know what I mean?
That's
Um,
crazy, man. Like you're not even a woman. Like if you're a woman, you're like, oh, that's a UTI. But you're a guy. It's like that's a problem.
yeah, well, this actually happened to me about 6 years ago when I was working at a car dealership. But back then, you used to have to hold your urine for 5, 6 hours at sometimes because you're with these customers trying to get them to sign large contracts and commit like all their family's money to a vehicle, and it was just like your boss wouldn't even let you leave the room.
Yeah.
And one day it happened to me, and I ended up going to the doctors, and they mentioned it was something like, abusing my body from trying to do that. But what I've experienced out here is I started another business that's not in comedy. It's the resale business. So basically, I'm just like buying and reselling things, and
You doing
I
like
just
the
find
drop
myself,
shipping Alibaba type bullshit?
yeah, like, well, I liquidate to resellers who sell online. So I just fill my garage with shit, and then people who sell on eBay come and I sell them everything at one time. So it's a variation of mad different items, but like, I just have a lot of people who think they can make money off of the stuff they're buying from me. So they think, oh, I'm gonna be making, 2 grand off the stuff I get from Vinny. So they give me 1,000, but I only paid like 200 or 300 bucks for the shit.
Dude, you must have so many sketchy characters showing up to your house. Why would you bring these people to your house?
It actually makes no sense. And on my TikTok, I absolutely have a video of an Indian gentleman who, I don't even know if he's Indian or what he is. I'm just being racist, really, but he's something. And he fucking bought a Nintendo Wii from me and came back the next day and tried to get his money back, but he like opened the Wii and like cracked it and shit.
What?
And like, I'm like, dude, you definitely tried to take some fucking parts out of this. So I filmed it and like we're fighting, and he's like, like off camera, he's like pointing his finger gun at me like he's gonna kill me and shit. It's just so fucking.
Damn.
I actually almost beat the shit out of a dude on my lawn too once doing this.
Yo, don't you have like a kid? Why are you bringing these people to your house?
Well, this is Florida's got a stand your ground law, so if they're at my house, I can pretty much use deadly force to stop somebody from acting fucking nuts. So I guess
I mean, I guess that is true. Can't
I
argue with
just
that.
I'm just a bit more fearless than I would be. Like, I've dealt with a lot of legal situations, and I don't want to. I feel like it's just safer for me at my house than it would be for me in public somewhere. I don't know. I don't know. I really
Yeah.
don't have. I really don't have all the answers to the stupid shit I do.
Wait, I want to hear about this fight. Like, how did this fist fight almost break out?
So it was another like Middle Eastern gentleman that came to a I got like these beefs with these Middle Eastern people that come to fucking garage sales. But they had this community garage sale in my neighborhood, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna fill my entire fucking garage and try to make a couple $1,000s, and I did. But there was like 200 people at my house and just lined up to come in and look at this shit. And there was a lot of people just parking in the street, and one old
Wait,
white.
do you have any pictures of this stuff? I
Oh,
need
I
to
have
visualize
video
it.
and stuff, of course,
Wait, send
yeah.
those to me. I'm gonna pull those up on screen. I want to see this.
Hold on one second. Let
Yeah,
me.
you can like Facebook message or Discord message.
I might not have all of them on. Hang on one sec.
Well, you're painting a crazy. You had 200 people at your house.
In one day for a garage sale, yeah, the in and out, yeah.
Oh, internet. Okay, I'm just
But
picturing like.
lined up, like literally lined up to come in. Like, because I just gotten so much shit. I am gonna link you some stuff, so just hang on.
Yeah,
Well, let me
please.
just finish. Keep going with the
Yeah,
story.
keep
So,
going, keep going.
so this dude, this old guy, really old dude, left. Oh, I got one of the videos. I'm gonna save the video. I don't know if you can hear it right now. All right, hang on. I'm gonna fuck it now. Send this right to your DM. This is great. So this is me fighting with the first story. This is the video of the first guy, but the second dude, the story is crazy. So there's this old white guy. It says it's too powerful. Max size. Upgrade to Discord Nitro. All right, so I got to link you.
Yeah, just link me.
Okay, we're going to share this.
So what was this Middle Eastern garage salesman type guy trying to buy from you?
Nothing. This wasn't over something he was trying to buy from me. This particular beef was, all right, let me cancel this video out, and I got you the link. This particular beef was because an old white guy parked in the middle of the street, and he came in my garage, was looking around, trying to cut everybody in line, and then this Middle Eastern guy comes up, and he goes, whose fucking truck is that? You know, and the old white guy goes, oh my God, I'm so sorry, it's mine. And he goes, you know, this Middle Eastern dude's like, you're in the fucking way, you can't fucking park like that, you piece of shit. And in my garage is just belittling this old man, and this guy must have been in his 70s.
Wow.
So I just get up out of my chair and I was like, listen, bro, let me just tell you something right now. I was like, in my house, in my garage, we're going to treat everybody with respect. And that's what I said to him.
Okay.
And then the guy's like, oh, is that what we're going to do? And I was like, yeah, dude, you're in my house. This is an elderly gentleman. He's being polite. He's going to move his car. Like, what the fuck is the problem, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I said that, he blew up. What the fuck is my problem? Blah, blah, blah. And his wife is holding him back. And he's backing up, and as he's backing up, he's now saying, like, some crazier shit to me. You know, call me a piece of shit and a motherfucker and this and that. He'll kick my... Once he said he'll kick my fucking ass, you know, I mean, right before this little health scare happened with me, like, legit, I'm not like... I'd probably get my ass kicked by a lot of people, but I have balls of steel, kind of. So
Sure.
if I feel threatened and kind of called out, like, I'm ready to fight, especially some fucking 45-year-old Indian guy. You know what I mean?
You know,
like,
too, it's also like, you know, like when you run into a black bear or a brown bear, they say to, like, make a lot of noise and act as big as possible, and that's, like, the safest thing to do. I feel like it's the same thing.
Go away. You're absolutely right, because I literally walked over, and I didn't even have my sneakers on all the way yet, and I'm like, dude, get the fuck out of here, and I'm walking up to his truck as he's about to get in. And then, you know, that's when he said, he's like, dude, I'll kick your fucking ass.
So
and
is this the guy? The TikTok video you sent me, is this the guy?
No, this is the video is the first story about the broken Wii guy. He tried to fucking threaten to kill me and shit.
Keep going with your story, and then I'll play the video. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so this dude, he's like, I'll kick your fucking ass. I'm like, oh, you'll kick my ass? So all I did was, like, gently go on the grass and started putting my sneakers on like we're about to fight, you know?
Lacing up.
I'm lacing up, and then the dude comes around the car, and I just look at him, and I go, bro, I'm going to knock you out in front of your fucking kid, because his little kid was in the car, and she's like, the little girl's like, no, daddy, you know? And I'm just like, yeah, get in the car, you big fucking pussy. I'm like, you want to get fucking killed? And, like, you know, I'm just going sick on this guy, and he leaves, like, and I turn around, bro, and there's only 4 people left in my garage out of, like, there's like 25 of them in there, and like one kid's just looking through a pile of Pokemon cards, and he is so committed to that box that he's like looking for Charizard or whatever, that he's like, I'm not leaving this fucking place until I get what I want. And then there was like 3 other people that were just like, I'm ready to make a bulk deal. And it's just funny.
Well, hey, listen, if you want to get a good deal at a garage sale in Florida, like, this isn't the first time you've seen a fight get broken out.
Bro, it happened to me yesterday. So the reason I get into the resale business is, you know, as comedians, we work at night. So during the day, I need something to do, you know? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I like it. You know, I like the business. You find really cool shit sometimes. So this lady posts up on her Facebook page and says, I'm moving, I gotta get out. And she posted a picture of an entire garage full of stuff, an entire garage. And she's like, make me an offer. So I shot her a message, and I was like, nah, dude, you see like $100 ladders in the picture and all this shit, and just like thousands of dollars worth of stuff. And I know she's desperate. I'm a scumbag. So I'm like, I'll give you $100. I said, and I'll clear out any of the shit you don't want, like garbage. You know, I'll clear it all out. And the lady's like, sold. So I drive to her house immediately. I give her the $100, and I pack my entire SUV full of shit. Might have been like $600 or $700 worth of stuff. So I at least have that, because I know that shit could happen, you know? Mm-hmm. And dude, immediately her Puerto Rican boyfriend, he's like 50 years old, just comes flying up on a Honda onto the lawn, puts the e-brake in check, gets out of the car, and she's like, oh, hi, honey. And he's like, hi, honey. He's like, don't fucking talk to me like that. You caused all this. And they're like in the middle of a divorce, but she's telling me she's like a real estate agent. Like, all this bullshit. And he starts, dude, he's like, who the fuck is this guy? And he points to me, and I'm like, dude, I'm just buying this shit, And he picks up like a brand new chainsaw in the box,
Oh shit.
and it's like $100 chainsaw, and I'm like, I was ready to put it in my car. And he fucking football spikes it into the ground, and he just starts jumping on it, and he starts smashing shit. He's like, you're gonna buy this shit, huh? He's smashing it, just going fucking sick, because it's all his stuff, And she's just selling his shit. And dude, he fucking threw a Nintendo Wii across the fucking driveway, and it broke, but I still fucking picked it up and took it, and I was like, fuck it.
Wait, so they were trying to sell. Oh, so they were trying to sell this shit. They're going through a divorce. She stole
and she's
all this
like,
shit.
I'll get rid of all this shit. I just need it gone because the house has got to be done tomorrow.
So now you're in the middle. You're in the middle of a divorce now. You're just like you've inserted yourself in the middle of a divorce. And
well, look at how big of a piece of shit I am, right? So I go home. I take all this shit out of my house, and I'm like pissed that I didn't score $2,000, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, I only got about $500 or $600 worth of shit here. I'm like, this is fucking stupid, I'm like, I want more. So I let like 2 hours go by, and I text her. I'm like, that was not what I agreed to. I was like, can you just send me my money back? Now I want the money back too. I'm an idiot, And I'm like, I'm just being it because you got it. Like, I really want the stuff, but if you ask them for the money, then they're like, fuck, now I got to give this guy the rest of the stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, like 2 hours went by, and she just calmed down with this guy. And they must have just came to some agreement, and they didn't want to move the shit themselves. So they asked me if I would, come back. And I went back, and dude, it was the funniest scene because they're now civil. But, going through what we've seen, and the neighbors were all watching, I came back. I was like, is everybody okay? And they're like, yeah. And I ended up just picking more of the valuable shit and just leaving everything else. And I said, yeah, I'll be, she had to get everything out of there by midnight or she'd be charged like a ton of money. And she's like, are you going to come back and get the rest? And I'm like, yeah, I'll be back in a few hours. And I just never went back.
Yeah, I feel like you more than a lot of people would be able to navigate like a hood ass fucking relationship spat where they're just like punching each other in the face, and then the next minute everybody's just like chill again for no apparent reason. Wait, here, let's watch this video that you sent me. I want to see this. Alright, what is this guy?
And told me he's gonna do what it takes to get the money back. Let me show him the crack on the system. Can I do that? Let me show you the crack on the system.
My vehicle, please.
Let me show the crack on the system, bro. Then why can't I see the game system, then, bro? Why can't I see the game system? You can report whatever the hell you want. Just get off my property. That's all you got to do. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Come back with a system you didn't try to get into next time, my friend. Thank you.
Damn. So he's trying to harvest your Wii for parts, and you caught him.
Yeah, dude. It was fucking cracked. I took pictures of it the day before. And I'm even nice enough, like, if something doesn't work, people could get their money back from me because I know they might buy from me in the future, And so, like, but, so I do try to give as good of customer service as I can. Plus, it's my house, so they know where I live. So I'm not trying to scam nobody out of my garage, But he came back the next day, and it was clearly all fucked up, And that's when I was like, dude, you know what? I'm like, go fuck yourself. And then he goes, you're going to give me the money. And he's in my garage. And so I was like, all right. So I picked up the Wii, and I brought it to this curb. And I was like, you're either going to take it or it's going to be trash.
You must, like, to some degree, have some type of admiration for people like this. Like, if they're trying to scam you, you're like, okay, like, I kind of get what kind of guy you are.
Yes, dude. I actually, you don't know how many times I talk people down back to earth, and I'm like, you don't understand. You just ran into a monster.
Yeah, like, I get it. We're, like, one the same. Like, you don't have to do all these magic tricks on me. Like, I get it.
So then dude, they're the resellers I sell to. And then what I end up doing is I end up explaining to them that if they actually get on the good side of things, that they can get probably better deals than they're getting anywhere else and more stuff. And, and then you end up, I'll tell you a funny story. Another Middle Eastern dude. There's a lot of Middle Eastern people out here that sell in this business.
Yeah, what a shock that you've aligned yourself with sketchy Middle Easterners. I mean, what a surprise.
But this guy's a cool dude. His name is Aziz. Shout out to Aziz, by the way. Aziz, was a Disney employee, and right when COVID hit, he was put on furlough. So he's like literally panicking to lose his job, right?
Yeah, of course.
And he needs to fucking figure out how to feed his family. And he comes to me, to my garage sale, to buy like a video game system. And he just liked me and liked hearing about some of the stories of comedy and shit. And we're talking for a while. And then, I start telling him what I do and why I have all this shit. And once I explained to people what I'm doing, and he realized he can, probably make a huge profit. There might be $3,000 worth of shit in my garage at point, CJ, but this is shit that it's gonna take a year to sell all of it, right?
Yeah, it takes a while.
And
yeah.
if you sell it piece by piece. So, I'm sitting here trying to get, maybe $1,500 for all of it, and then somebody could double their money and it's their problem, which is a lot. Usually people work you down a lot to maybe even half that. But anyways, Aziz ends up going from buying one video game system to spending like $1,250 on everything in my whole garage.
Mm-hmm.
And the deal was he also had to bring me to Disney like 5 times, me and my family, like, cause he works there and he gets free tickets. And like, he's, I know he doesn't work there anymore, and people are gonna fucking hear this and maybe get in trouble, but this is just the truth, like he fucking, so he brought us to Disney like 4 times, dude, which is like,
really?
Cost me like, yeah, it's gonna cost me like $2,000 otherwise, right? Like
maybe even more than that. That's a lot of money.
Dude, I've actually been to Disney for free 35 times since moving here.
What do you do at Disney 35 times? What do you do? Like, what's the rides you go on?
And pretty much everything you can imagine. I've fucking done it,
Damn, it's like, at that point, you're just going in, getting a turkey leg, and just walking out. That's so crazy, man. What are you going to the main park? Or are you going to MGM? Which one are you going to?
Everywhere.
See, I can see myself going to MGM like all the time. MGM's my shit.
Oh, so fun, dude! You come here anytime, I'll get you in for free.
Hell yeah, dude! I used to have a godfather who worked at Disney. He would just swipe us in. Same story.
The Godfather reference was so key. All right.
No, that's real. I'm saying my godfather. He literally worked at Disney.
I know, but if you're listening to this, I'm literally running a mafia of Middle Eastern resellers.
Oh, we can't forget about that. No way. And you're having Disney. You have Disney employees that are doing favors. I mean, I don't even think you should really be allowed on the property. You're getting snuck in 35 times.
So this guy Aziz bought everything in the garage, and he brought me to Disney like 4 times, but after like 2 weeks, dude, he hadn't sold one item.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's like losing his job and spent like his life savings on this junk,
Well, what kind of junk are we talking here? What kind of stuff is this? What are you selling them?
All right, like, so for example, like I bought a whole lot of vintage Hot Wheels, but they're all from like the 80s, and they were in the package, and I paid like 25 cents a package for all of them, and then one guy came and bought half of them. So Aziz, he paid like $1 each for like 300 of them.
Oh my god.
And so like, that's pretty much what they go for, right? And then I had the rest of them for free. I just put in like my closet so he didn't see them. They were there,
So that's like what, 175% markup or something like that?
Yeah, it was crazy. And then like 300% markup because it was 25 cents.
Oh, right, 300%. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. So then and then you're just talking about like, I can't even remember, but Disney stuff they like. Disney stuff sells really well here because people like will buy it online that aren't able to come here, and like, so you find a unique market of resale where there's like people who want a fucking Mickey Mouse blanket that it's limited edition, and they can only get it at Animal Kingdom on Thursday, but they're in fucking Wyoming, you know what I mean? And they'll fucking pay double for it or some shit. I've made a lot of money.
Can I just say too, I mean, is there anything more pathetic than an adult Disney fan? I mean, these people are just such trash human beings, man. And there's so many of them too. It's
Well,
like
I have a daughter. I have a 9-year-old daughter, so like going
you
to
can watch.
Disney.
Yeah, I'm saying childless adults that love Disney.
Yeah, no, I see them all the time. I see them all the time. It's like my main market of people, that I
Oh,
deal
dude,
with.
they buy that shit. They buy like
Oh,
the crap
thousands, bro.
for tons
Thousands.
of stuff.
So the cool part of the story is, Aziz calls me a few weeks later, and he has like only one more Disney trip to like fill the obligation, and he's like, dude, I need to make my car payment this weekend. What the fuck am I gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
And so like I set him up at a flea market where he's got to like. I'm like, dude, you got to sell this shit and get whatever you can for it. At this point, I'm not giving him his money back. I'm like,
yeah, that ain't
I'm just trying to help him figure it out.
Yeah, you
and
put
like,
all that money in Dogecoin. That's in circulation.
basically that money was gone as soon as I got it. So I'm like, dude, there's literally nothing I can do, Like I acted like I was like a customer service agent, like there's some bigger guy that has to deal with it,
Right.
But I got him to the flea market and he made his car money that weekend, but he got fired from Disney for good. And he owed me one more Disney trip, and you'd think I would just like let him off the hook about it, but like I really wanted to go to Epcot that weekend because they have like good food there. So I was like,
Yeah,
fuck,
they do.
I was like, I was planning on going to get some fucking lobster. I'm thinking I could get a lobster out of the guy or something. And he's like, you got to just see our last Disney trip. He's not even an employee anymore, but he still has his badge that he could get us in.
Oh,
And like,
shit.
so it's such a big system. Like they don't like take that away right away,
Mm-hmm.
And dude, just watching this guy that weekend sweat and barter with people for $2 sneakers and shit at the flea market, and then the next day just seeing how stressed he is. Like a year later, like he hits me up and he's like, I did sell all the stuff, and he did double his money, but it took him a while, And
Double his money. He made $600. That's nothing. You can't. What are you
no,
gonna do with $600?
he took a lot of the items and he sold them on eBay, and it took him a while longer, but he ended up making a couple thousand, but he ended up getting a job. I mean, the answer to the whole thing was to get another job,
Dude, all these like reselling things and all this shit, it's like, yeah, it's like good. I feel like it's good side money, but you can't like rely on that for the most part.
You can't, but you can I'm making a pretty good living just wholesaling to these resellers, because the stuff becomes their problem, man. If they quit, it's just shit in their house.
Yeah, I mean, you've turned this into a multi-level marketing operation.
Yeah, pretty much.
Essentially. You're like one step above like Herbalife or like the Cutco knives.
Except I've not tried to convince people that I have a magic new product. I'm just selling them people's old shit.
Yeah, you're selling them Hot Wheels that may or may not have value. Like, why do they even believe you that these Hot Wheels have value?
Because in Florida, you could find brand new items that dude must have been sitting in somebody's garage for like 30 years. So it looks super vintage in the package. It looks super old.
Yeah.
And, I bet there's one in the box that'll sell for $30 and the rest will sell for $1 or $2, but when you're paying eBay fees and shit, it's not worth it.
No.
But, look, there are probably resellers because I have people come back to me all the time. I'm sure they figured out their ways to hustle their product, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are flea markets out here 6 days a week in Florida. So it's a lot of Mexican folks, but pretty much if you're like an illegal American and need to earn some money, or you just got fired, like you could survive in Florida just buying and reselling shit. But it was funny? I told my wife the other day, like I was like, how many of these toys do you think have just lived in resellers' hands for years and never been touched by like a kid?
Mm-hmm.
I've probably touched stuff that I'm like, oh, this is 20 years old, but who knows how many times it's been passed around like $1 in a fucking hooker's vagina, like it's just fucking insane to me. But you do find some cool shit that you end up keeping and stuff. So
sometimes that shit gets randomly valuable too. Like, if let's say there's like some '80s movie, and then all of a sudden they do like like a remake of it, and all of a sudden that shit gets very, very valuable. So you kind of never know with a lot of that stuff.
So a couple ways how I've like done really well with it, I would just like say it's worth talking about, is one of my neighbors had to move, and we did a garage sale for him. He didn't know how to do a garage sale, but he had to move all his stuff out, and we made him about $5,000, and then he left a bunch of shit that I got to keep, and I either resold a bunch or I kept it. Like I kept a brand new gas grill, LG washer and dryers that were probably over $2,000 that he just didn't want to take, and shelving for my garage. And so like I furnished about maybe most of this house with really nice stuff just by, I like to buy things a lot at once from someone. So if somebody's got like, let's say 2 books of Pokemon cards that I want, but I see all this other shit, I'll just say, how much for all of it, because then I'm really getting a higher profit margin and getting rid of the undesirables. I figured out a way to do that kind of. And I even donate shit and stuff, and you could get, some tax write-offs for donating to people and donating to Goodwills and shit like that. And, it's a little bit of work, but another thing that I did when I was one of this other Disney employees who brought me about 10 times to Disney had to pay for his wedding in only a month. And he needed to make like $10,000. And
yeah, so how'd you take advantage of him?
He basically had brought me a Pokemon card collection that he said there was about 20,000 cards, but there had to have been 100,000 cards,
Damn.
And besides that, he brought a Disney metal pin collection. Those are really valuable here to me. And the collection alone was worth about $3,000. And so when he brought those two things to me, I was like, okay, so we're getting very close to what you need, and basically I said, dude, go through your house. He had a huge house. I was like, anything you don't need, stuff in your garage, whatever it is, I was like, bring it all over here and I'll sell it and just give you your money. And dude, I mean, he must have brought $20,000 worth of stuff here.
Damn. How much did you give him again? 10,000?
Yeah, we paid for his wedding. His wedding got paid for. And we also paid for some court fees for him to get his daughter back from his mother-in-law or some shit like that. It was some weird situation with that. But yeah, I mean, we might have made him 10 or 11 G's. I mean, but, I'm telling you that I literally, like, that helped keep us afloat during COVID.
Did you get invited to the wedding?
Yes, but you had to dress up like Disney characters in order to go, and it was
Are you serious?
And it was at a paintball field, so I just didn't go.
Do you have any pictures of this? Oh no, you didn't go. You didn't go.
Yeah, I got pictures of it though. I'm friends with them on social media.
Damn, these are some real stupid people that you're able to find. So they're adult
well,
Disney
I actually
fans.
I do like Thomas a lot. I mean, you do meet people that you end up like, you kind of become friends with them.
Okay, Vinny, why are you using this person? You're going on this story about how you took advantage of somebody, and then you're at the end of it, you're using their real name. You're crazy.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he knew what he was giving up to pay for his wedding, bro. That was definitely, and he knew I was making money because I spent like 2 months getting rid of all the shit,
Yeah, it's the same type of consent like when you're trying to sell some stuff and you go to the pawn shop. You're kind of, I see you as like sort of a human pawn shop type
bro,
scenario.
It's insane to me that there's so many like illegal type transactions that go on in this business, but it's like illegal and allowed everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Like
the trick is riding that line, that gray line between legal and illegal. Especially now that you're in Florida, the line is much grayer.
Look at it this way, right? Somebody has a garage sale on a Saturday, and there's like an old lady puts out a box of her, dead grandson's video games, and there's like Xboxes and Nintendos and all these games. And you're just like offering the lady like $20. You're like, I'll give you $20 and get this out of the way for you. and then you leave and you got like 600 in your back seat, and you're like, you feel like you robbed an old lady.
Do you feel that? Like when you do something like that to somebody, does it feel like you robbed an old lady?
I feel like that more guilt from that than when I would just take money from comedians. I don't know why.
Well, see, I kind of, I used to get a little upset. I was like, okay, Vinny's taking advantage of all these comics. You got to protect the comics, blah, blah, blah. I mean, comedians are the people who should be taken advantage of. They're not good. They're not good people. They're not doing good things for the world. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to make themselves famous. So that alone is, that kind of makes them a bad person, because their main thing in life is being famous, being seen, being the most well-known person. So it's like, fuck them. Who cares? What are they doing for the community? Yeah. Take their money. Who cares?
Yeah. I gotta be honest with you, man. Like a lot of that stuff I was doing and I say before BAM, because basically in my timeline of my life, BAM plays a role of like when they talk about timetables with Jesus AD after Christ, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a time in my life where before I met BAM, and then after, in that period in between, and then all that changed everything. But I'm talking about my earlier years in comedy before I knew any celebrities or did anything like that. I really had such wonderful intentions with anybody I ever worked with. It's just that I had unrealistic expectations without them putting in any work. Like, I feel like for all the money comedians have given me, I've always given them a platform or taught them how to do this the right way and make money. But it's simply just like trying to get a dead fish to swim, And like, I
Well,
don't know.
okay, I'm gonna stop you there because I mean, there's some scenarios that you've concocted that have just been, I mean, they've been laughable. Like,
Yeah.
my favorite was when you would host that open mic in New Haven, and comics were allowed to go for free, but if you were trying to be an audience member, that's gonna cost you $20.
Well, that's actually interesting because, like, yes, I was putting on a lot of amateur comedians that would just be at an open mic if they weren't at my show, but I always gave my audience a really good time, me hosting the show. And none of my audience members over the years ever gave a shit about paying for the money, except if they were friends with a comic. Like, I have people now that still come see me years later. And what I was trying to do then was build a value for my shows that whether I was shitting on a microphone or saying the best jokes in the world, people were going to pay a certain amount to see me. And just like being a business guy, knowing that at $5 or $10 a ticket, my business goes up 200 and 300% just by charging this $20. And realistically now, and I'm not just like bullshitting you, even though I'm a nobody. Any shows I produce, like, it's minimum a $30 ticket. Like, dude, I've done tickets as high as $50 and $100 to work with some of the guys I've worked with. Like, me and Bam were $100. I just did a tour with this kid Justin Silva. Every show was $50 a ticket. We sold out Atlanta, Tampa, Orlando, Miami, New York. We did a good show. I did a show by myself in Connecticut, and everybody paid the $30. But what's funny though is like a lot of people don't know that I gave away tons of free tickets. I did pay comedians sometimes, and as well as I would always do discount tickets for people who couldn't afford it. Sure, not everybody knew that, but that's just like the cost of business. Like, my uncle always told me, you can never go up in price, but you could always go down. So
That is actually true. That is actually so true. And when you go down, people feel like they got a deal. Like,
yeah,
you're like, okay, because I would sell tickets on McDougal Street a lot. I
so
actually
Chris,
made a lot of money doing this. You'd be like, tickets are $20, but it's two of you guys, 2 for 1, $10 a ticket, $20 for 2 tickets. So much easier.
Exactly. So actually, what I would do, I still do this to this day. If tickets are $30 to my show, I'll go. If I'm in a tourist region, because I do a lot of my shows in areas where there's high foot traffic, a lot of tourists and stuff. I'll go out there in the morning, like I used to do in Atlantic City or New York, and when I bark, I'll just do buy one get one free all day long. So I'm basically just dragging 2 people in for and they feel like they're getting a deal, as opposed to thinking about it and wondering who's going to be on the lineup and stuff. They do feel like they're getting a deal, and then the other part of it is like, if I was doing $5 a ticket, at one point am I going to say, okay, it's 20 now, you guys come in? And they're like, nah, I'll just wait till it's 5 again, and it's like, damn.
Well, and the other thing too is if you have a whole street team of people barking, and you have one guy doing $5, another guy doing $20, another guy doing $10, then you have all this confusion, and nobody like really wants to, buy tickets from the $20 guy. So you need like some level of collusion among everybody working too.
I worked in Atlantic City for a while, and they have their systems and their way of doing it out there. But I think once like one person gets a deal from a certain ticket guy, if they want to go see that show, they're always going to call that guy.
True.
Because we always to tell, like, no, you're gonna pay 20 at the door, you're gonna pay 30 at the door. You need to get them through me, and it's just sales 101, man. I sold cars, I sold phones, I sold everything, man. So I just brought like sales into comedy, and mainly because that was what I knew. But as I got into comedy, I realized it was a broken business completely, just a broken business. No structure, no rules, only rules comedians set are to protect themselves and the ones that they care about. Everybody else is just up for grabs. And I realized that every time I tried to do something good in the state of Connecticut or in the surrounding states, and I tried to do something good for a comic, like for example, if there was even a veteran comic that I was like, yo, man, I'm going to give you $500 to headline the show, and I want it to be the show that you tell all your people about, it's going to be awesome, blah, blah, blah. They end up doing no work. And then if I don't pay them all that money, or I end up becoming the bad guy when I'm the one who tried to help them out in the first place, you know? And so that's happened so much to me that I guess in my later years, but you know, I got a little loose with it and scammy because I was more or less like, they're gonna fuck me anyway. And I felt, and dude, you know how many shows I would go do? You got to remember, I've been doing this since I was 17. You know how many shows I would go do early on and like show up to a full house and not get paid by people all the time, even when they told me they would. And
Mm-hmm.
and I just said I'm not gonna do any shows anymore that I'm not controlling.
You know, see, I think there's some things people need to know about you. Um, like I kind of agree with you where I don't necessarily see you as that bad of a guy. I think you have an image where a lot of people see you as, you know, you've kind of embraced it to a certain degree. They call you Scumbag Vinny. You've like kind of embraced it. But it seems like you yourself don't feel like you're that bad of a guy, and I kind of agree with that, to be honest with you. But I think a lot of the times your biggest problem, you've two problems. Number one, I think your main motivation is money, and I don't think I'm out of line saying that. And I also think you bite off way more than you could chew sometimes, and it creates a scenario where people feel like they've been ripped off. Would you agree with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's because so many people hear me talk, especially the ones that want to give me the money, that they think I'm just going to do it all for them as well. You know, like anybody I work with to this day, you know, I'm trying to give them, now I'm trying to, if they're paying me for anything, I'm trying to give them up front, like I'm going to give you the tools to succeed. And it's worked out a lot better for me because now they have their expectations going in, like, okay, Vinny's saying we can do all these great things, but at least the worst case scenario, I'm going to learn how to do it myself. Because what I found is like, let's say a guy was like, Vinny, I'll give you $1,000 and let's throw a bunch of shows together. 2 shows were good. By the 3rd show, it all fell apart. The guy gets so mad at me, talks shit about me online, and then he starts doing his own shows. Now he owns a comedy club or something like that. And then you think to yourself, like, damn, I'm inadvertently helping these folks anyway, even if it's just them, like, using the fuel that they have hatred for me or the situation to like go out and do something. Like they're actually making the scene better. And I can give you literally a construct of how the things I've done in the Connecticut comedy scene, good, bad, or indifferent, have actually improved the scene overall. And you could also argue some things about me leaving there, how everybody says, oh, it was so great and all the comedians so happy, but things are not as good as they used to be either, you
Well,
know?
okay, like give me like a concrete. What have you done in Connecticut that has improved the comedy scene in Connecticut? Like I just can't. Like you got to give me one.
Okay, so for example, I don't want to use anybody's name specifically unless I'm friends with them, but let me try to think because I want to give you something
Except for Thomas, who
concrete.
you threw under the bus earlier, but yeah.
Okay, all right. So what I would say, one example, Paul Gregory, he's a friend of mine. He's a great guy. And when he was just starting out, he had been, you know, asking me like for some paid gigs and stuff. And I'm just like, look, Paul, if you're not putting asses in seats, it just doesn't make sense to me. Yada, 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 yada. It wasn't ever going to work out with us working together. But I remember one time going to see one of his shows just because I lived in Middletown. And I said, hey, man, I'm doing this gig in New Jersey on Tuesday. Do you want to give me a ride there? I'll pay all the expenses. You get paid for the show. And then we have a hotel and then we come back the next day. So he said, yeah. We went on the trip. And although the trip didn't do much for him then, the stuff he had learned from me just being with me, I know that he took the good and left what he thought was the bad. And he ended up going on to produce a ton of shows in Middletown that ended up turning into him running, you know, the Elbow Room. And now that Elbow Room's passed on to some other people while he's now running another spot. And so that literally manifested for me. And that's just one thing. I could say as well that there have been many comedians that have been on my shows, hated how I've run them, and gone to run their own shows in spite of me,
See,
which
that's more what I think of. I think of like when you're a newer comic and you work with Vinny Beetle, you're like, oh, these are the predators that I have to look out for.
Right, like, but then what I end up doing is just becoming a part of like a clique of nothingness. Like Sam Hunter is a comedian in Connecticut that did called up Joker's Wild while I was managing the club and said, "Hey, when's open mic night?" Immediately, I'm trying to get rid of open mic night. I'm like, "No, you want to do one of these showcases? You bring your friends, blah blah blah. You do 5 minutes, blah blah blah, whatever." It was like his first time ever, and he brought. Now, some people would not even bring anybody and they'd still go on stage. So it was never a bringer where people would like get tossed off the show or anything like that. But, I implemented a system later where they could make money per tickets that they sell, which kind of helped out a little bit. But, this kid ended up bringing like 20 or 30 people. And I think he ended up like sucking a big one. I don't even remember his set really, but I didn't hear anything about it until like 2 years later when he started hanging out with some other like Connecticut comics and became a little better and more sure of himself, and then started telling the world that Vinny Beetle fucked him over because all his friends came to see his show and they all had to pay $20. Meanwhile, everybody's laughing at everybody else, just not him or some other whatever. And he ended up throwing a lot of his own shows after that. And then I ended up going. I don't know how many people really know this, but I ended up going to the Stress Factory before it was being built, and I ended up getting a job there as one of the managers in training in Bridgeport, and I helped them open the club up. And a lot of comedians were coming down Vinny Brand's throat in Connecticut for giving me that job. So Vinny tried to demote me, and when I didn't take that job, Sam Hunter ended up taking that job. And so it was just like, dude, that's just things I think about where I'm like, these people hate me, but they tend to do the same types of things I do or try to do it their way and spin it into their own thing, which is great. But would they have done that if I didn't give them that experience in the first place? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's like, when you could tell somebody's likely to molest somebody based on when they were a kid, they got molested. It's the same type of thing,
I mean, I guess I could see your correlation there. But yeah, if basically because me and Sam are just two fat, unfunny comedians who throw shows.
A lot of people, they think of you as the death of Joker's Wild.
Dude, and that is that's such bullshit, because this is the story of that, and this is another thing I wanted to talk about. I started there when I was 17 years old, bro. I was their number one third-party promoter. Every single show that I had put on had at least an audience of this is in my younger years, from 40 to 50 people to 200 people. Every single time I had a show, banger, 8 years I did it there. And Pat Oates and the owner's wife there would block me out of doing weekend work because they said, he could fill a Thursday, right? Or a Sunday, or, so let's not put him on the weekends because he could fill those other days for us, or those late night gigs. I ended up just loving Joker's Wild, so I took anything I can get there at all times. And I actually went in there when the owner was getting sick, Dominic, he was getting sick. I went in there to do Pat Oates' podcast when me and Pat were beefing. And the new owners of Joker's Wild were people who also owned a car dealership that I used to work for. And so I was in there doing the podcast, and they're like, "Hey, Vinny, what's up, dude?" And then there was 3 guys that ran a car dealership, and I'm like, "Yo, guys, what's up, man? How you doing? What are you doing here?" "Oh, I'm a comedian." "Oh, I didn't know you did that." And they were looking to get rid of Pat Oates anyway, so that's how they got rid of him, and they hired me to manage the club. And at that point, they hadn't worked out a salary with me. So what I was doing was I was showcasing 5 shows a week, including the weekend shows. And the weekend shows, they were papering tickets anyway. So Pat Oates, dude, for years was just giving away free tickets on the weekend. So any comedy club is not going to run not selling tickets. You know what I mean? Like, right. It's not going to work. And they used to pay Jerry Morgan, who's a great guy from Fistful of Jokes, to just sit there all day long and just fucking call people and give away free tickets. So the first thing I did when I started managing the place is I said, dude, at least call them and give away buy one, get one free something. You got to bring some money into this place. But bro, I was literally, even at that point, making a couple grand a week in cash just in ticket sales from the spot. But I wasn't going to I was producing the show, so the owners gave me the ability to keep any of the ticket sales because they wanted the bar and food sales. But I'm like, eventually, if the club's going to run, all the ticket sales have to come to the club. I need to be paid a salary. But that's when we get down to the nitty gritty of them giving, like, you have this job, you know? And I had an idea for the grand opening to, I'm sitting there, I am a scumbag, and I'm sitting there talking to Jerry Morgan, and he's talking about how Fistful of Jokes is helping the College Street Music Hall bring TJ Miller there. And TJ Miller was one of my favorite comedians in the world at the
This
time.
was pre-train bomb threat TJ Miller, too. I should let that be known.
This is 2015. So,
yes.
2015, I'd throw some bangers there, man. I brought in people from BT, MTV. I'd thrown really good shows there. And I wanted to bring in TJ Miller for a grand opening weekend because how I configured the math, if he had done just 4 small shows instead of 1 big theater show, he can make even more money with us. And he actually likes performing smaller clubs as opposed to bigger theaters. It's something that I read that he just enjoys. So I was ready to call their manager. I emailed them, basically went behind Jerry's back to do it, obviously. But I did all that work, and I got contacted by them, and they said that they were, down to do it. But then the owners of Joker's Wild were like listening to Darren Rivera and some other people about doing this other event that they explained to me had this lady from the show Mob Wives come in, and because it was Worcester Street and the Italians, that they were going to do a wine tasting at $100 a ticket, and it was going to be her, and they were going to have on not Joe Matarese. He came one weekend when I was managing the club there. That's a good guy. I know that you like him a lot, but that's a guy you can ask about me during that weekend there. He'll say I handled it really well.
Here, I'm gonna message Joe Matarese right now. Here, let's see this.
2015, I managed Joker's Wild when he was there for a weekend as a headliner.
I'll ask Joe Matarese about this. This seems like very interesting crossover between Vinny Beetle and Joe Matarese.
He might not remember I'm Scumbag Vinny. He might remember Vinny Beetle, or something like that. But, so anyways, Joe was the weekend before, or Memorial Day, something like that. But anyways, how it ended up being was they had some other comedians. Drew Dunn was on the lineup as well as some other people. I forget. And the show I knew was going to be a flop. And I had just worked so hard to get the same amount of money to spend on this Mob Wives bitch. That's how much TJ costs. And I want them to invest.
A number?
What's that?
You got a number for TJ? How much were you going to pay him?
Now, this is back then. It was going to be $10,000 for the weekend.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Okay. Now, I know I can tell you some scary numbers. Had some comedy clubs, he makes 30, 40, 50 grand, bro. Like, he could really...
Doesn't surprise me at all.
So I wanted to do that show, and they were going to pay this 10 grand to this reality TV girl. Like, what the fuck, and I ended up resigning as the manager that day from Joker's Wild. And immediately as I resigned from the manager, I'd only been the manager for 3 months. Darren Rivera walked in 30 minutes later to come get the job. And, but you got to understand, without Pat Oates there and without any promotion in place and no money for advertising, they still need Vinny Beetle to throw shows, right? And I'm still making all of my money anyway, just from selling tickets. The only thing is I'm not in control of the schedule or anything like that. So Darren's like, all your shows will stay on the books, and then blah, blah, blah. We'll just book our own stuff. The next week, dude, Darren Rivera canceled a Saturday night stand-up show I had 100 tickets sold for. He canceled it to put a male strip show on.
Whew. Wait, so you're telling me, so I actually am not aware of this. You're saying that you were not working at Joker's Wild when the place went under.
This was in September of 2015 when the strip show went on. I made a public Facebook post talking about it, talked shit about them, and moved all my people to a new venue. We sold the show out. I started running other venues, and I had made statements to people that I can probably go back and find where I literally told people it will be closed before Christmas time for good. And it was, and that was the end of it. Darren Rivera was the manager of the club, and he had no fucking idea what he was doing. And
so
still to
how much responsibility are you putting on Darren Rivera for Joker's Wild closing?
100%.
100%?
100%. Yeah, because ideally, if his ego was left at the front door, he could have came to me and came up with a strong. He has no business sense. That's why he's still broke. You know, so we're talking about a guy who's been doing this for 20 years, right?
Really? 20. Oh, Darren Rivera. I think I remember this guy actually. I think he.
But there are tons of people like him around there, bro. It's all like that.
Darren Rivera.
It's all like that, Chris. I mean, I just loved when you would say all these things to me about what I was doing wrong and money and comedians. I never said a thing back to you because I seen the fire that you had and I wanted it to live in you forever, even if you didn't agree with what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so that fire can take you places, But Darren was just looking for a paycheck, And I went there and I had to talk with him and sat down and said, look, man, I don't mind you taking the place over. I quit. I just want you to not fuck me over for the dates I got left. But, dude, when you're doing male strip shows on a Saturday night, you ain't got much time left. You need John Taffer to come in there and bar rescue the place. You know what I mean?
That is such, sketchy New Haven bar thinking to turn a club into a strip club on a Saturday.
Bro, I was there that night, and I went to see what's going on. There was 100 ladies in there. It was a great night for them, I'm sure, at the ring, at the register. But you're talking about ruining the image of your club. You're talking about potentially bringing in, at the time, one of the world's biggest actors and comedians in T.J. Miller, all right? You're talking about doing that. You have the ability to do that. And then at the same time, throw quality stand-up shows on the weekends. But instead, you want to pay reality TV stars 10 grand. You want to bring in fucking comedians no one's ever heard of, and then you want to do door deals with people like Joe Batteris at the time, which is not a big deal, but he didn't sell any tickets. So you then
you're bringing strippers and you're bringing Joe Matteris. You're not bringing much to the table.
Well, Joe is like one of those comics that's a really solid headliner if you put him in between a bunch of celebrity type people that you bring in. Like Vinny Brand, as much as I fucking can't stand the guy, he at least has like a pretty solid science down as to how to make $1 million running a comedy club.
That's true.
He does have that science down. His problem is, I worked for him for 3 fucking weeks and he just never paid me, And so when he was talking shit to me, saying I had to rectify things with comedians in Connecticut and go all through all these apologies. And so I made all those phone calls. But at the same time, I was like, I'm still not getting paid. So by the time he was ready to demote me and because I was supposed to be one of the managers of that club, dude. I chased that job for 3 years trying to produce shows at his New Jersey club, and he would tell me, I'm going to open up a place in Connecticut. You got to stay true, stay loyal. I'll hire you to come work there. And I would throw shows at the Bijou Theater and sell them out and just send him pictures and be like, I could fill Bridgeport. But his managers in New Jersey had been working for him for 15 years, and to see someone come in and just take that job, they were going to do anything to make sure I didn't get that job.
Yeah, of course. I remember you doing all that stuff at the Bijou Theater. That was kind of a wild time because I felt like that was full scam Vinny mode. That whole era.
Oh yeah,
that was scam Vinny. You had lost your mind. You had lost your moral compass. You were out for blood at that point.
Yeah, well, it was dude, I was trying so hard to do things the right way in this business. And even to this day, if you're out there and you're in the comedy world and you're listening to this and you're thinking about working with me, just know that I might do some wonderful things for you in your career, but I'm going to get mine no matter what. At all costs. And it's because I have a family to take care of now, and I have failed enough times that I think I can save people that heartache of the mistakes I did, but it's gonna cost you.
See, you kind of I don't know if this will make any sense to you. You remind me of Stewie from Succession, where he's a big fucking scumbag, all this stuff, but at the end of the day, he's face up and he tells everybody, I'm going to do what makes me the most money at the end of the day. So at that point, you almost can't even hate him because he's just so honest.
Dude, listen, that's what I think got me to where I was with any celebrities I met, was because I'm pitching them the same thing I pitch open mic guy A and B, except they have the resources and they've been through it enough to understand that what I'm telling them might work. The only difficult time I've had really is there's a different situation when you're dealing with celebrities. You have to deal with addiction issues, and you have to deal with
Well,
you
you have to
know,
deal
the
with
hard
addiction
work aspect.
issues when you're dealing with the celebrities that you're dating. I mean, like, yeah, let's get into that. So, um, how did you start? Like, you started working with celebrities. I think Artie Lang. That was the first celebrity you started
Actually,
working with,
no.
right? Who's the
Actually,
first one?
no, no. So I ended up opening Nomad's Comedy Club in South Windsor, and I was doing good shows there, but I wanted to have like a bang.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately, Chris, I was like, I'm gonna do and this is 2018. I said I'm gonna do what I always believed in, and I'm going to. I had the contact info. I'm going to book T.J. Miller.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so
So I
TJ
ended
is
up.
the first guy that you really started
What,
working with, who was a
yes,
celebrity.
but even before that, I happened. I don't know if you ever heard this story. I managed a guy that has no legs, and we we got him in an Adam Sandler movie right around that same time.
I think I heard this story. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like he had got me into the movie premiere, and I had met some of the biggest celebrities in the world. Just partied with them and took pictures and shit, you know.
Yeah.
And nobody knew I was a stand-up comic because I just wanted to get in with them personally. And there are still some people I talk to, but what it did was it no, it made me not afraid to approach celebrities, you know.
Well,
So
yeah.
I ended
With
up
a
hitting
lot of
up
these
TJ.
people, it's like as soon as you realize they're just a person, like they're trying to read up your motivations. There's nothing to be afraid of. If you ask them for stuff, they're gonna say yes or no. Like, and once you get to
Yeah,
that point, it's pretty easy.
yeah, you never get what you don't ask for, you know. But TJ's show went really, really good, and then after that, I got linked up with Artie, and we did a couple shows there that went really, really good. And then Artie wanted me to do more shows for him, so I just started finding other places and other things, and we would just go do other shows. And
Mm-hmm.
then Artie ended up in jail, and then that's how I got a call from Bam's manager when they figured out I was freed up from that, and they kind of recruited me. I'm not gonna lie.
See, that's like that's a crazy way to wait for your next client. You're like, well, my client is in jail, so now I'm all freed up. I don't know
Yeah,
if
I'm
I've
all
ever
freed
been
up.
in that circumstance.
Well, being Artie's like go-to guy, I wouldn't call it him. I've sometimes referred to it as being his manager since I did ask him for that title at one point. And he said yes, but he's back with his other manager now, and whatever. So like I being his go-to guy is a big responsibility, and it's not
Oh
like
yeah, for sure. He seems like he's a lot to keep track of.
not really. It's more
No?
just about like my only job. I had nothing to do, and I tell people this. I had nothing to do with like his actual personal life until the very end. But my job was just pretty grueling to make sure that we were doing enough gigs to give him the money he needed to not do it with someone else.
Okay. Wait,
So
give me a half a second here, Vinny.
yeah, of course.
Just give me one sec. Um, Thank you. Okay, I'm back.
That's cool.
Okay, so wait, something I'm like kind of curious about. Whatever happened with the Bagel Boss guy? Weren't you trying to organize a boxing fight with him?
Yes, dude. Like he might, and this sounds fucked up. He might be dead.
Really?
He there's rumors about that. I know
Wait,
he had
can
a
we look
stroke.
that up right now? What's the guy's name?
You won't be able to find anything. His name is Chris Morgan, but
Chris Morgan. Okay.
his people who were managing him ended up fighting with him and kept all his social media accounts.
Okay.
And I heard he might have had a stroke, and then he might have. I don't know, dude.
Oh yeah. New York Post. Bagel Boss guy, in quotes, Chris Morgan has been hospitalized after suffering an apparent stroke. His manager revealed Wednesday morning. 45 suffered the medical emergency Monday outside of Long Island Deli. Oh, that's kind of funny that he was like outside of Delhi. Like you could always find this guy in and out of delis or bagel shops is where you find him, I guess.
Yeah. I was because before Bam went on like nuts. This is back in 2019. He like signed a contract to be the referee of the Bagel Boss's fight, and and like took money and shit. But then the guy had to like get his money back because Bam ain't gonna be there, you know.
Right.
And like And I swear to God, bro, Bam has this. He's a millionaire, but I swear if he was broke like me, he would totally be like doing the same shit I do. Like, me and him have this friendship that's developed where it's like he'll hear about something I do and he'll just laugh his fucking ass off. Like he wishes he can pull something like that off, you know? And it's just the strangest thing.
Well,
I don't know
dude,
if
you
it's
could
just
tell, man. I mean, the way that he treats his Instagram page is just not okay. It's pretty funny because it'll be like maybe you have some insight into this. Like he'll just randomly post some like hookah shell necklace company. It's like, bam, why are you posting this
so
bullshit?
so some people have the passwords to his account and they do that without his knowledge really, or they had a deal that they were going to pay him and then they never pay him, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yep.
So we try to kill those as often as we can, but the problem is like if he's away from his phone for 2 weeks, it goes on without him even knowing, you know what I mean? And
So
the
there's
only
just
thing
all these people. Why don't you guys just change the password?
because I'm not really I there was one point where I was about to be in control, not control. I was about to be given a lot more responsibility with his business, you know, life. Um, Around the Castle Bam party time. That was really before me and Bam started beefing publicly. You know, I had done a lot to save that party from him losing a lot of money, and I just remember like him being like, you know, and his wife were both like, "Wow, we really like Vinny. He's real with us, and we want him around." And then some fans, when I'm not around, you know, people get in his ear about me, and that, you know, we had our differences. I did wrong, he did wrong. That's all in the past. But like, basically now I'm in communicate. I was in communication with him every day for the last 6 months, and mostly just talking Chris about like normal life stuff, not really planning any shows or business, just hanging like talking and whatever. We both got a kid, we both got a wife, we both got the same kind of problems,
Yep.
you know, going on
Mm-hmm.
like that and whatever. And you know, and you know, now that he's out just trying to get help right now and stay clear, I have been, you know, texting his family a little bit, and so you can see that starting to come back now a little bit. But the problem is that there's so many people around this guy that if you fall from grace with his people, some people may never get back to that, you know. Like he has the biggest following I've ever experienced with any celebrity I've ever met ever. And when I say following, I mean like if he was to now, you know, be, let's say he was sober and was like, I'm gonna be here this date, like, dude, I would go do these shows with him, and sometimes there'd be 200, 400, 500 people there, and we'd only have a week to promote it. And God only knows if it wasn't $100, how many people would have showed up if it was free. He had a party at his house. I think 5,000 people showed up.
Dude, that whole Castle Bam situation, I mean, I was just watching that unfold for my computer, and at the time, the Cumtown subreddit was in full swing. Man, I mean, I can't imagine what that must have been like, honest to God. And, dude, you're one of those guys where I'm like, something major is gonna happen, and it's probably gonna be something insanely chaotic. Like now, like
Yeah.
right now, you just got Middle Easterners fighting you on your lawn, like whatever. But that was that's like a chill amount of chaos for you. I mean, that's just like
Manageable, fun shit.
yeah, the Castle Bam thing. I mean, there were hundreds and hundreds of people who were furious at you.
I would say thousands, but a lot of it goes to show you how strong the Cumtown fan base is because, you know, when you're looking over your shoulder, you want to know who's there. And I had done so much research, and a lot of those people, man, were just fake. And that's what's funny about it. It's what made me lean into the Scumbag Vinny thing so much, is I realized that people just love villainous characters, and they really want to hate you. So give them reasons to. And after a while, they're either going to not stop bothering with you, or they're going to end up liking you. And I know that I know that it's not a good situation that I was in, but I know I've handled it better than most people would have been able to.
Well,
I've turned it.
I think you handled it better. I mean, I guess the word better is kind of relative because, I mean, you were able to. do all this, you were able to sort of internalize having thousands of people mad at you at one time, and still, you went to Disney with that money, right?
No, see, that's like, no, like realistically, what paid for me to get to Disney the first time around was the profits I was earning from me and Bam's comedy shows that we were doing.
Mm.
But the castle party was something where we were in the middle of doing our tour, and he's like, I have this huge party at my house, just come. So I went there a few days early, and then Bam had never gotten a permit for the party. So I kind of became this perfect fit. Like, I walked into the room, was like, what are you guys so worried about? I've done failing events my entire life. like, why is everybody so down? They had never dealt with anything like that. So I had just taken over and started helping damage control. But my payoff was, I want to be on camera, and I don't mind taking whatever comes with this, because I know I don't have any real legal responsibility to it. Like, I didn't have any legal responsibility to anything that happened in that party.
You're like, I have no liability. I haven't signed anything. I am in the clear.
Not even that. All the money from that party was safe in a bank account that had Bam's name on it. And that's where the money went from the website, and all that stuff. So, like, I knew I didn't take any of the money from that party, but that's where all the fuel came from. But the problem was, I had taken some money from the tour in advance. You know what I mean?
Uh-oh.
And so
this is, by the way, that's how Bernie Madoff went to jail, is what you're describing right now.
They thought he did something, and then they found out he did something else. Yeah.
No, taking the money for something and using it for other stuff before it's been returned to the people that initially gave the money.
Right. Well, he ended up so I made a ton of money on the shows we did do, but the money I had to give back was for shows that we had planned. After the party, he just didn't come to anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was just stuck but I paid all that off, which is another good thing. But what's funny is, like, once that thing happened, so basically while Bam's in rehab, I'm like, fuck it. I already have some of the money left from these shows. Before he canceled them, I'm like, while he's in rehab, let's go on vacation. And then when he comes home, we'll just do the shows. He didn't do the shows because somebody texted him a picture of me with, like, Sideshow Bob's hair on my head.
Oh, my God.
And they're just like, you're in rehab and Beatles partying it up at Disney. You know what I mean?
Holy shit.
And then he's like, fuck this. And, and he posted that I took the castle money and went to Disney. And to move here, I ended up making these T-shirts that said "Get Beetle Back to Disney," and that's what paid for us to move here. So,
dude, and then you found Aziz, who got you into Disney 35 times.
So I never had to pay for Disney again, But being at Disney has gotten me, like, people have recognized me here more than anywhere, even in Connecticut. And I did comedy there for 10 years. I get recognized everywhere here. Now, I've also been in some videos that have gotten millions of views since all this, and I've gotten out there a lot more. But just yesterday, somebody recognized me from the Danny Duncan video. He's a YouTuber that, I don't know if you've seen the video, Bam punching me in the head. We kind of just seen each other a month or two ago. Mm-hmm. And he tried to throw a cake at me and shit. And it was because this big YouTuber was filming it, but it got like almost 4 million views. And I'm in the gas station yesterday, and this father and son come in, and they're like, this is the guy from the Danny Duncan video, because I had my shirt on. And then the lady behind the counter, the Spanish lady's like, oh, you're Scumbag Vinny from the Justin Silva tour. Now, Justin Silva, he's a Connecticut comedian who he's got millions of followers now. And we've just been friends for years. Mm-hmm. And we've been friends, dude, since I've known you, like, that long. He just ended up, a lot of Connecticut comedians never liked or treated him well for some weird reason. He's a good kid. They just, nobody would mess with him really. And he had a tough go at that. So I just kind of, we were just friends, and he moved down here and we started doing shows.
I will say, out of all the comedy scenes that I've been a part of, I would say Connecticut was easily the clickiest and most like lunch table type vibes, where, if you aren't in with the cool people, you're kind of like a castaway and everybody treats you like shit.
Yeah, but dude, doesn't that all stem from a couple of unhappy comedy veterans that want people to, like, look up at them?
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, for sure.
Like, oh, if these kids are my fucking, like, and I have had some really good friends in comedy. I've lost almost all of them at one point or another. So with Bam, we just became friends because he's not a comedian.
He's got nothing really to gain or lose from you. You're just kind of like
That's
an
it.
interesting
He just
character.
fucking likes me. He just
Mm-hmm.
likes that I've made bad decisions because he's made a million bad decisions.
Yeah.
And he
So
does appreciate my honesty. You know how many people, dude, like steal from him, use him, and do all this shit, and they never even admit to it or act like they're doing anything wrong?
well, people accuse you of doing that.
Of course, but dude, I've lost more money with Bam than I've ever made. I'll tell you that.
That can't
So,
be true.
but
I mean, come on, that can't be true.
I do believe that. No, I have. I used to because I used to get overzealous every time he would text me.
Oh, and then you would start spending money that you didn't have, type thing.
Not even that, just booking shows, paying for big venues, just promising comedians money to help me with the show. Like the whole production started coming together. You know what I mean?
Right,
and that happened like 30 fucking times, dude. And also all the time and energy spent on those, how much money I could have made doing something else. But what he did bring me, and I do believe this, he opened up many, many doors for me.
Oh,
and
100%. I mean, that's easily the best thing that's happened to you because it made you interesting. Because now instead of being just like, a guy who's throwing these shows and scamming low-level comics, now you're attached to one of the most well-known figures in America. And that
right.
adds so much more mystique to you. That's why you got on Cumtown. It's because of your connection with Bam.
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of fans just asked me to get on Cumtown, and I hit up Stavros. He put me in touch with Nick, and then me and Nick were talking, and the whole plan was for them was that they were not going to let me on Cumtown until we got there, and I looked them in the face with Bam standing to the right of me and said, our tour is me and Bam, because he doesn't perform solo. I'm on stage with him when we do our thing. It's me and Bam, and if you don't want me on this show, then we'll both walk the fuck out of here. And it wasn't like one of those things where he didn't know. He's like, yeah, we doing this or not,
Mm-hmm.
And because he's loyal to me, he don't fucking know them. To this day, he still thinks they're a local Yonkers radio show.
Wait, so you said that to them? You were like, hey, it's the two of us or we're walking? You said that to them?
Of course. And then they said, okay, we'll set up another mic and you're in.
Hell yeah, man. I respect that for sure. 100%.
Well, look, man, I told Bam from the first time we sat down and talked business that I'm not in this to be his friend and that I want to be famous. I've worked my whole life to do what you said you hated, which honestly, when I've got it, I really didn't want it. But this is me then, and I wanted to make a lot of money, which I still want to do. Money is my motive, so you're not wrong for saying that. It's always my motive. I have a child, and I have a fucking pretty expensive living habit, and I have a business that I'm couple $100,000 in debt with from all this, but I know that could fucking turn around. But anyways, back to my point real quick is that like when I said that to him, he was okay with working with me regardless. I just didn't want to feel weird trying to make money off him. Like, bro, there are people that work with him and are afraid to ask them for their cut, so I kind of wanted it to be upfront and out there, especially because I didn't know if he needed the money even from the gigs.
Right.
And then it worked for and against me. Sometimes he'd hold money over my head. Sometimes he would help me out extra because he knew I needed it. Mm-hmm. So like there were times like that really back and forth. But what it ended up developing was like just 3 years of bullshit, fighting, anger, all this shit to a conversation we finally had on the phone where he's like, bro, I'll give you everything in the world you ever wanted. I just want a real friend in my life for once. Like somebody who's not going to bullshit me, but also isn't going to fucking take advantage of me and talk shit about me every second he gets.
That's
but at
so
the same
sad,
time,
man. That must have been really sad to hear that.
Well, it is, but at the same time, it's like, but dude, I'm writing all this shit about you online because all you keep telling me is that this life is a reality show and that we have to fucking, pump it up for the crowd. So even though some of the shit I'm saying might hurt you because you care about me, just know that I'm doing it because the Scumbag Vinny character has to be believable for people to invest in me. It has to be. No matter how much because even people who listen to this who genuinely might think I'm a good guy, you got to know that I'm at such a high level of this, and I've talked about this so many times that it could be all bullshit still, and I could be that bad person that people want to believe is there, and I don't care what they believe as long as they're tuned in. Is kind of where
and
I'm
you know what? Maybe you don't even know it. Maybe it's just so in the back of your subconscious that you don't even know
I
you're
gotta be
consciously
honest with
doing
you.
it.
I started talking about this in my act on stage. Like, my family truly comes from organized crime. My family comes from really bad things. I really do come from that bad place where everybody in my life had done anything you can imagine crime wise. Besides anything, like when I seen crime wise, I'm like, just in the last 100 years between my mother and father's side, I've had murderers in my family. I've had hitmen in my family. I've had people just burying bodies senselessly and they're getting caught,
Jesus
hiding
Christ.
bodies for the mafia. I've had extortion, racketeering, drug dealing, um, just threatening people's lives,
Yeah.
robbing.
Even you had a fraud case against you.
I don't think that was me. My father has um, the same name as me. I don't have a relationship with my father, but my biological
Gotcha.
biological father's name is Vinny Beetle as well, and he is a self-made millionaire. He owns a company that it's like a big plumbing company in Connecticut,
Mm-hmm.
and he's been sued over like 100 times and lost like over $500,000 worth of
Jesus
cases.
Christ.
But he's legitimately like a millionaire. Like, I haven't seen him more than 10 times in my life, but I remember one time when I was about 8 at a Dunkin' Donuts. No, I wasn't 8. It was whenever Hurricane Katrina happened. So I might have been
How old are you?
14. I'm 30. When was Katrina?
Katrina was 2003, I think. Let me see.
Okay, so it would be that long ago. I was probably 12 or 13, 12 to 14, let's say.
2005 is when that happened.
So I was 14 years old, so it had to be a year or two after that. So I had to be like 14 or 15. I met my dad somewhere to talk. He had other kids, and one of them passed away as a baby. So he had this whole like, I need to be with my son thing. So he had like come pick me up. I hadn't seen him for like fucking 7 years at that point, and like I knew he was a rich guy, which always pissed me off. And so our relationship never kicked off the ground because I always wanted money from him because he was fucking rich, and we struggled a little. So, I met with this guy, and I just remember him telling me how he had like 11 companies, and he's like, Vinny, he's like, you don't even know. I just made $11 million off Hurricane Katrina because he owned all these companies, and he was willing to send all his people down there to help with the cleanup. So the government was paying whoever they could to help with it. And I just remember thinking, like, damn, dude, like anything people see about him, they don't even know what this guy's doing. That was just one movie. Even if he was exaggerating about it to a child, you got to think, even if he's making fucking 25% of that to get a couple $1,000,000 off the government just to help clean up what he should have done for free was fucking insane to me.
Well, also, it's like, so he's bragging about all this money he made off a tragedy to his son that he never sees. Like, there's so many layers to how fucked up that is.
So about a year before that, I remember being 10 or 12. My mother's brother was a millionaire as well, and he was the one that was he made his money legitimately, but he was more of the one that ended up with like drug selling and did some operational type organized crime, and he ended up getting arrested by the FBI when I was 17, and that's how I ended up starting comedy. Really, was because we had everything kind of taken from us when he got arrested. But my uncle was involved in some organized crime type shit, and I remember one time when I was about 12, he took me with him to North Branford to this meeting where these Russian mafia guys were going to meet with him about a car deal. Basically, the car deal was that my uncle would buy a bunch of Lexuses, and these Russian mafia types would take them overseas and sell them for more money. It was actually legit business, but sometimes you did legit business, like it depended on what it was. And, so when we got there, they called my uncle and said, we need to know who's with you. And my Uncle Tom was like, well, just my nephew, Vinny. And he said, well, what's his first and last name? We need to know. Mm-hmm. They said, oh, his name's Vinny Beetle. And they were like, what? And I guess my real father had done some big business deal with them and fucked him over, and they wanted to kill him. And they were like, if we get our hands on that kid, we're going to fucking kill him. And that was me.
Shit. That was you,
and I'm
man.
12, bro. I'm like 12. And I'm like, so I tell Uncle Tom, I'm like, dude, you want me to just like go across the street to that Burger King or some shit? And he's like, yeah, do that.
Yeah,
And
he's like, I don't know what to do about this either.
I
I've
just
never
fucking
run into a
got out of
scenario
there.
like this.
Well, he made his business deal, and then he came back and picked me up. My uncle was like in his like mid-30s, but he was also very like my best friend, so he was kind of playful. And he got me in the car, and he's like, dude, they were gonna fucking kill you. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, Uncle Tom, why? And he's like, I don't know, man. Your dad fucked him over real good, you know?
You know, I'm pretty sure my dad only scams people in third world countries, so I don't think I really have much to worry about.
What does your dad do?
Dude, he gets involved in all this, like, internet bullshit. Like, he gets really... I think he's, like, kind of a gambling addict because he gets sucked into the make money quick schemes. Like, he'll go to those websites where it has, like, a countdown clock and then there's, like, a webinar. Like, he's really into that kind of shit.
Oh, dude, he probably makes a killing, though, sometimes.
Who knows, man? He's a liar, so you can't really trust the thing that comes out of his mouth.
Your dad? Do you have a relationship with him or no?
Oh, I do. Yeah, it's just you got to know what you're getting when you
And
start
you know what's
talking
funny?
to Kevin,
Is
you know?
a lot of people have told me that I was better off without a dad because then you're like, I don't know how to explain it, but like basically a dad to me was like a Santa Claus story. Like you really loved him, but you also never seen him, but you wanted to believe he was there, you know? And when you found out he wasn't, you still were okay with it because you had those memories at least. But like a lot of people I met that had their dad fucking hate their dad.
See, I don't hate my dad. It's just, you know, he's just got, he's a layered man. You know, he's got his ups and his downs.
Everybody does, man. Believe me. Everybody does, you know. And that's the beauty of the Scumbag Vinny character is I believe I'm relatable to people who want to be scumbag or who are scumbags but portray a different image. Like there's one comedian in general I know who's one of my best friends in comedy, and I know he's like a bigger piece of shit than me, but everybody in the comedy world loves him because he portrays the image of like a great guy, and I call that a closet. Like I call that a closet scumbag, like someone who just hasn't come out of the closet about it yet, you know. And
I would love to know who you're... Can you drop some hints?
Well, I've already done a podcast about him in the past called Closet Scumbag. It's Andre Kim. But Andre...
Oh, yeah, dude. Andre is not in the closet. Are you kidding me?
Well, but listen, maybe things have changed, but, you know, I just know that for a long time, you know... I mean, even still, man, no, because there are times that he's come to me, like, you know, for a little bit of advice on, you know, like moves he should make or things he should do. And he won't do certain things because of how it might portray him. And so maybe he treats like lesser known people like that. But if you see him around like any celebrity friends he knows or things like that, he'll still be acting, acting the part, you know. And I just feel like he would be so, but you know, he's doing really well now too, Chris. So, And so I can't really like I hate to tell people what to do, and when they ask me it sucks because then if they're not listening to me I end up being like the bad guy kind of. But you know, he's a great guy. I just know that like there's times we agree on everything I'm saying and laugh about it. I'm like, dude, you're just like me, you know. But
you know, I could really see, I don't know how you feel about the whole COVID thing, but like when he was talking shit about comics and fucking booking all these shows and like, oh, I'm doing all this stuff in the middle of a pandemic, that kind of set off red flags for me personally.
Well, yeah, see, you're right. So I was more or less talking about pre-pandemic is when
But I'm saying like that's when I noticed some stuff about Andre is when the pandemic kicked off.
Oh, because dude, people can only hold it in for so long, you know.
And then when the pandemic happened, that was a real when push comes to shove. Moment.
You get to see who people really are.
You see who people are. Exactly. Yep.
And you know what's crazy is like, and just Andre aside, there's tons of people like him. So I don't want to single him out because there's tons of comedians just like him. But it's like, dude, do you know how many people in the comedy business follow the rules that maybe I broke, the code of ethics, but still take advantage of young comedians and they'll be the ones to tell them, don't go to Vinny Beetle, he'll fuck you, but you better work with me.
I mean,
And
New York is the best example of this. Look at institutions like the Laughing Buddha, or look at like how Stand Up New York operates, or look at how any of these clubs operate. It's completely to take advantage of the dream that young people have, and it exploits them.
Look at, dude.
And again,
honestly,
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I'd say most of these kids deserve to be robbed, and they should be robbed, and so you might as well. But I'm just saying, if they're going to talk shit about somebody like you, they should be operating better than they are.
Right. And I think the prime example of that in Connecticut would be like Pat Oates. And I beat this dead horse many times, but he was a guy that like would literally tell people I'm a scammer, and then just have some old man run his bringer shows. Yeah. And you know, and I would just say to myself, this, like, and here's a guy that when I was a teenager, bro, if I didn't bring enough people to one of his shows, he would literally like throw me off the show. And so there's a lot about that guy, but because he also is friends with some of the top cliquey people in Connecticut, they almost protect him in that way.
Well, you know his new grift, Pat Oates, is he's been trying to wiggle his way into the Cumtown media sphere, and
oh my god,
dude! So it's like, you know, he's gonna talk about the ethics of Vinny Beetle, and then try to wiggle his way into a network that started the fucking Proud Boys. It's like, give me a break, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, that's fucking nuts, by the way. I did not know that. But why they would even let him in that at all is just beyond me.
Well, he's the fans of Cumtown Media. They treat him like shit, by the way, and it's really funny. Check it out on Twitter. There's all these people who just abuse him online now.
Well, I actually kind of just like went in on him, and then I stopped with him for a long time because he did these. He's seen me on Twitter. So like, this is a guy again who's told people I'm a scammer for years, bro. And he's also been the type that the minute I'd be having like 20 grand in the bank, I'd pay him like $300 or $400 to headline a show once in a while, and it would be like just so I could say I didn't even need the money, I didn't even make money on the show, just so I could say like I'm fucking helping you feed your kids, you know, and like I know you still talk shit about me, and he's like the kind of guy that would do that for years, dude. And then what I ended up finding out about him was so interesting. Like, I ended up TikTok is the biggest social media platform I have. I have like 77,000 followers on there.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it's band fans and shit like that. And so, like, you know, whatever. I just rock with it and try to earn on it any way I can with merch and shit like that. But it's not as big as people think it is. But so Pat gets on TikTok and he thinks, oh, well, if anybody can do anything, I can do anything. And he starts doing like these weird children's book videos and shit. I don't know if you ever seen this.
Wait, let's pull this up. Here, I can pull this up on stream. Here, let's find this. Is his name Pat Oates on TikTok?
Right. I'm going to go check right now.
All right, because this needs to be investigated.
Oh, I talked all about it on my... Yeah, it is Pat Oates.
Hi, my name's Alfred D'Elia.
Whoa, dude, this is weird. Here, let me pull this up right now.
Super strange.
This is some weird-ass shit, man.
I can only see your Xbox screen. Is that normal?
No, that's not the stream. If you go to the Twitch, that's where you find it. Twitch.
Oh, I see. I gotta download Twitch.
Sorry, CJ Brown. You don't have to.
Okay.
I mean, you can just you don't need to see it.
Oh, I got Twitch right here. It's just updating.
Mm-hmm.
I could watch it later too, right?
Yeah. This is gonna be saved as a VOD, and I'm gonna clip it.
Cool.
And, you know, take little pieces and put them places and stuff. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so Pat did these weird fucking videos.
Here, I'm gonna play some of them. Here, let's see. So here we go.
Hi, my name's Alfred D'Elia. At home they call me Big Al, and I hit dingers.
Whoa, this is creepy. Like, do you remember a couple years ago when these people manipulated the YouTube kids and they were getting all these weird videos of like Elsa trying to fuck Spider-Man?
Dude, yes. So
this is what that reminds me of right here.
It's exactly like that. Go down to his first couple videos where he's dressed like a girl clown kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Or something, and then he's got ones where he's like without his shirt on.
Dude. Wow.
Bro, he's such a creepo.
What is up with this? Oh, hey. And the weirdest part of this, The video has a COVID-19 fact warning above it.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
hey,
should have a
everyone.
To Catch a Predator
It's
warning
me,
under it.
Chief Brad again.
Well, so
Chilling with the
anyway, so I
Fox.
saw these videos and I
Chief
did a
Brad.
podcast about them.
Pretty rundown.
And I just basically titled it Pat Oates is Gay because his old podcast used to be called Pat Oates is Sad.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It was just play on words. It had nothing to do with him being gay, right? But I just trashed him in this podcast. And dude, literally like 2 or 3 days ago, one of his ex-girlfriends hit me up and she's like, boy, do I have some stories for you. She's like, I listened, Pat Oates is gay, and let me just say that I know why now. And I was like laughing hysterically because I'm like, she has no idea that I just named it that randomly, but now I know he's like blowing dudes or something, you know?
Jeez. Oh, man. See, I don't know nothing about nothing. Holy crap. See, you're wiggling your way into things you shouldn't have wiggled into, you know? Maybe that's something Pat has to work out on his own, you know?
Maybe. I mean, I don't have anything against gay people, but I know Pat has had a lot of bad experience, like, with women and shit at shows and stuff. And he's, like, the kind of guy that, you know, only gets hired at a bar because he's, like, trying to, like, he's sleeping with, like, 2 of the waitresses or some shit, you know? So I feel like that's how he got into, like, comics is, like, sleeping with Ryan Broth or something like that. I'm just teasing, dude. Don't worry.
Shit. Well, do you know what? Here's something I'm curious about. Because, like, more of the Bam stuff. Because right now, I feel like there's such mystery around Bam. You know what I mean? Like, every couple of months, there's like a new crazy story about him. Do you have like random ass people like hitting you up, like asking about him? I'm sure you do, right?
Oh,
like,
every day, man.
Every day, yeah. Like, cause he just had that big thing with the director of Jackass.
Yeah, and that did get pretty serious. You know, it's like Bam will start off a joke, and then after like a few weeks, it's not a joke anymore. You know, jokes all come from real places, but when you're not a comedian, like you have a hard time separating real from the joke. So his jokes oftentimes turn into real situations, and you know, like I read all the texts he sent to the director, and they were pretty crazy.
Oh shit!
They were pretty nuts.
Like pretty threatening type thing?
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Like if you got those texts, you'd probably be afraid?
No, like I've sent those texts to Bam, which was so funny about it is like when I had lost a bunch of money and was hitting Bam up with threats every day to like fucking take care of me and shit, like it literally looked like the same kind of shit. And then I realized like, man, am I fucking just as manic and bipolar as this guy is? You know, like
and Bam, you're on the same way. You get each other.
Yeah. And so we also know that we don't really mean none of that shit either.
But like, maybe like a high-profile Hollywood director might not take it exactly the same.
Well,
way.
Yes and no. I do really believe that they did not want Bam in the movie at all for many reasons. But that's for another day. But I also do believe that Bam needs the help he's getting. And I think that he is so polarizing that he could have his own thing and be fine just without them. But I guess everybody has insecurities, and he must have felt like without Jackass, he's not going to hit the comeback he wants, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it would have been the comeback he was looking for necessarily anyways, you know?
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, he seems like he definitely has a complicated relationship with the Jackass guys. Like,
yeah, he does.
Especially with Knoxville, it seems pretty tumultuous.
His relationship with Johnny Knoxville is just more or less like, how could we start this together and you're finishing it without me, regardless of how fucked up we get. We used to all get fucked up. Like, what's the problem? You know,
he feels maybe a little betrayed by him a little bit.
I think so. I think, you know, when Steve-O went through his shit, it's not like they ever took Steve-O out of any of the movies or anything, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, actually. That is a good point. Because, but now Steve-O's, like, fucking squeaky clean, fucking vegan, bullshit. Steve-O pisses me off, honestly. I hate his image. I think dude, he pisses me off.
I've had personal beefs with Steve-O, but what bothers me is that Steve-O was like coming to the rescue at first, right at the time where me and Bam were doing our comedy tour. So it was like, of course, Steve-O's worried about us taking, money out of his pocket. So if somebody pays $100 to see me and Bam in fucking, New Jersey, are they going to go see Steve-O's bucket list tour a third time? Probably not. They're probably going to keep coming to see Bam. And the reason is that even though Steve-O is kicking ass right now, and he really is with his YouTube subscribers and the way he's doing his business, certainly he's doing a great job. But I just feel like if Bam was even giving it half the effort, that he'd be like, 2 or 3 times ahead of that. So you could, but look, good for Steve-O, man. My problem with Steve-O, though, is like he tried hitting me up, threatening to cancel my career and all this shit when I was with Bam. And I'm just like, him telling me I'm the reason Bam drugs and all this shit. And
yo, that's got to be a little scary when fucking Steve-O is threatening you in your career.
You think so, but he didn't know I was living in Connecticut. He was at the Stress Factory that night. And I happened to be reading the messages while I was with some of my childhood friends who really are big dudes and love to fight. And it was like one of those things where I was telling them about it, and you could see me visually getting upset and stressed. And one of my friends who's like 6'6", he's like, dude, let's just go to the Stress Factory and beat the shit out of him, And so I messaged Steve-O, and I was like, I'm coming to the fucking Stress Factory, you pussy,
Oh my God.
And then he kind of backtracked just a little bit. And then I ended up like trying to work it out with him. A little while later, it didn't work out. And then I was like, why did I do that? And I started talking shit about him again. And then recently, before me and Bam linked up about 6 months ago again, Bam had posted on Instagram again about me saying Steve-O was going to kick my ass. And I was getting messages like right away from Steve-O. And he's like, dude, I did not say that. Like, kind of like didn't want it at all. And I was like, all right. And I was like, so cool, So I was like, so, Steve-O, I was like, so Cumtown's been wanting you on for a while, man. It's a good place to sell merch and shit. You want to go on Cumtown? And he agreed. He said, yeah. And I have just not been able to get in touch with any of these Cumtown guys. And I think it's because they're ignoring me, really.
Yeah. So you think, so none of them are talking, not Adam, Stav, or Nick are talking to you at all?
Well, I only really ever had a consistent, relationship with Nick, and I had leaned really hard into the Scumbag Vinny character thing, which to me was just a character, but these guys really took it seriously, Well,
I think the fans did too. I think that's why it was compelling.
Fuck yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. Look, I got to take my shot somewhere, bro,
Mm-hmm.
It worked too. I mean, I went from the most hated guest on the show ever to one of the most beloved guests, and all the fans that I do have, my biggest fans are Cumtown fans. So
yeah, of course.
That's awesome. I like it. I love the Cumtown fans. I've tried everything from trying to, fight with these guys to apologize, to kiss their ass, to hit them up and all this shit. But I just feel like having on Steve-O and then having on me and Bam again, which Bam also agreed to at one point, would be great for them. And
that would actually, I mean, to have a Cumtown episode, remove Stav, remove Adam, just do Nick, Scumbag Vinny, Steve-O, and Bam. That'd be amazing.
Nick actually said to me, like, if you could ever get me anybody crazy like you just did, let me know, and I'll pay you and whatever, like blah blah blah.
Damn.
Kind of a little producer, like get people. I blew that, but I was like, well, who's number? This was when I did. I was like, well, who's number one on your list? Like who after Bam, because Bam was their biggest get they could ever have gotten.
Yep.
I said, who's number 2? And he said Steve-O. And I got Steve-O, bro. And it's just like, it's such a shame. So much more could have been done with me in that Cumtown angle.
Did Steve-O know that you're in a car full of 6'6" people about to come beat the living shit out of him? Or did he know about this after or before he agreed to work with you?
Yeah, this was way after we made up.
But he knew about this.
He had to have. I mean, I texted it to him.
Wow, that's pretty bold of him that he's
Well, you
gonna
know what
work with
else?
somebody who threatened him like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I even asked him to do a couple shows afterwards, and he was like, "I'm not doing shows right now with COVID, but I'll let you know."
Yep.
And that was more recently. So, I wanted to kind of get people on board with Bam doing something like that or in his kind of clique. But I think Steve's a bad guy. I do think he made a really bad decision judging me, thinking I was like a drug addict or some shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when you fucking mess with the bull, you're gonna get the horns, bro. What can I say?
Damn, man. Damn. Especially on home turf. Like, you're in New Haven and you know the people that you
That
know.
was just bad luck on his part.
That was bad luck on his. Well, it
'Cause
would
I
have been
just said,
bad
where
luck
the
on
fuck
your
is-
part if you followed through
If I
with
got
it,
my
and
hat.
then you would have ended up in jail because Steve-O's got a lot of money and lawyers behind him.
Yeah, that's true too. But he did a lot of that technical shit to try to get me in jail. When Bam's shows got canceled, I had hit Steve-O up, and I'm like, dude, we have like 15 shows planned. I said I might lose 50 grand if these shows get canceled. And Steve-O was like, I'll do anything to make sure that he called the venues, he called the fucking cops and said I was frauding.
Wow.
Saying I didn't even know Bam and was booking these shows. He brought
forget
Bam
about us.
on his podcast and literally made Bam like dismiss me as nothing more than a fan at one point.
What?
Yeah, I got it on my YouTube channel. I clipped it out. He's like, "Oh, so Steve was like, so Bam, this is like, I don't know, 6 months ago, a year ago." He's like, "So Bam, I seen you doing comedy shows. You gonna do that again?" And Bam's like, "Oh, those were really fun. I did them with the fan, and I don't know if I'll be doing them again. And that's it, really." But it was mainly because they had realized that Bam was actually creating, and the way I leaned into it, like Scumbag Vinny is like this compelling character that could blow up, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've noticed is that over the last fucking like 4 years, so many famous people and people around famous people are trying to put a pillow and smother this Scumbag Vinny thing that eventually, bro, you put so many Band-Aids over a leak and the whole thing's gonna explode. Like, it's gonna explode.
Wait, so Steve-O's doing all this shit. Was he helping Bam at all behind the scenes, besides
Sure.
any of this stuff?
Yeah, I can definitely see that, but I also can. It's weird. There'd be times where I'm like, well, who the fuck am I to say something? He's been friends with him for 20 years, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, what Bam had explained to me later is even though Steve-O and him were mad cool, it just felt like, one thing a lot of people don't know is that Steve-O has openly admitted to being jealous of Bam back in the day. Bam was a millionaire while Steve-O was still broke, and there's just so much, as much good as Steve-O does, you can see this part of him that wants to see Bam down while he's rising to the top. You could see it. You could see it, dude. You could see it because I've done my research. I'm the kind of guy to sit here and smoke weed, and I'll just YouTube anything about their history. These guys have been doing this shit for 20 years, and I came into the mix like not knowing a lot,
Yep.
And just looking up old videos and stuff, and basically seeing like, okay, so Steve-O was fucked up and had nothing, and they had to give him help, and he went through hell while Bam was this mega star, and here it is now. Where
the tables have completely turned. It's like the exact opposite scenario.
But then you got a guy like Vinny Beetle, and the only good thing Steve-O has going for him at the time is this fucking awesome comedy tour he's doing. Then you got people like Vinny Beetle coming and bringing Bam, charging double, and taking all his fan base.
Yeah, right.
So I think I became public enemy number one, and I think the only way he could have stepped in is that way.
So do you think maybe maybe Steve-O used you for some of his misplaced emotions towards Bam? You ever think
100%, which is why I think he was so eager to apologize to me about it when he had the chance, was because he didn't want it to resurface anywhere. But I come from the school of Artie Lang radio where you don't leave any emotion untalked about. And, I do believe that one day when I'm gone, whether I make it to a bigger level or not, that I'm one of these figures that people will want to go back and do their research and find all these little podcasts and things that I've done and put all the stories together and realize how consistent they all are.
Mm-hmm.
And, it'll paint a different picture for me. I believe so.
I will say, like, out of all the things, I've heard you say, I don't notice a lot of inconsistencies. Like, you don't peg me as a liar, to be honest with you. Like, you don't really, you don't tell a lot of lies, unless it's a lie as a movement is happening. Like, if you're trying to get a bunch of people in a room, like, to sell comedy show tickets, like, then I know you're in a different mode, and I should, kind of switch how I look at how you're talking to me.
Yeah.
But
you're right.
In terms of, like, big picture type shit, I don't see you as, like a big... I don't think you're really capable of telling big, consistent lies.
Well, I found more success with telling the truth regardless, and there were a lot of...
the Cumtown interview, like, embracing your scams, going into them, exploring how funny it is that you've abused and taken advantage of people, you realize that that's an angle.
It's so funny, dude. It's one of those things I would always go home and laugh about to myself,
Yeah.
And just like, calling this one a retard, or how could they believe me? I don't know,
How could they believe me?
and then, but dude, there are some people that have gone through this, like this Justin Silva kid. You're talking about a kid who has paid me to produce shows that he could be on, who has brought people to shows to buy those $20 tickets, and who has listened to a lot of the advice I've given him and mixed his own shit in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's literally, he's got 2 million followers on TikTok, and dude, he's making a couple grand every time he does stand-up. He sells his merch. He gets paid to product placement. He's doing everything I dreamed of. Like, I might be 1 for 100, but he is my one that proves that you can do it. You just got to do a lot of the work yourself, and Justin did that.
Mm-hmm.
He really did, bro. He listened to everything I said and more, and that's why we're still able to work together now that he's gotten to the place he has. So I can't fully say that I've scammed these comics. It's like I've given them so many tools to do things themselves, and Chris, nobody wants to do it.
Right.
Nobody wants to actually put in the work and make funny, good content every day. And sorry, that comedy's subjective, so there might be stuff Justin does that you'll never find funny, but there are people who do, obviously. And
it's like if there is an audience for it, and if you know how to find it, if you're crafty enough, you could translate that.
Yes, but there are comedians who just aren't funny, bro, and they're not trying.
Dude, even those guys can find an audience a lot of the time.
Yeah, but they're not even trying to explore why am I unfunny, Like I've worked with some people. Like I worked with this promoter in New Haven who does music shows, and he's been a promoter for so many years. He's basically the Vinny Beetle of music, except he's not as smart as I am. But he's just done all these shows and burned all his bridges in Connecticut. Nobody believes a thing he says. He's literally, at the time I met him, was homeless, living in a homeless shelter every day, going to the library to get Wi-Fi. His life was over, and this guy's in his 40s, but all he wants to do is promote music still. He used to, do music magazines back in the day and shit. I took his social media account. He was looking for donations to literally eat and fucking get an apartment. And I took his Facebook account, and I basically, changed the wording on everything. It looked like he was a scammer, and I said, the worst promoter ever was his whole tagline, right? The world's worst promoter. Do you want your CD fucked up? Do you know someone who sucks at music and wants to be a star? All this shit. And bro, he ain't homeless anymore. He was hard for him to trust me at first. I'm not saying he's rich or nothing, but he had made some more money because everybody started laughing at his posts and shit. And, then they would inbox him and he'd probably really be like, yeah, I'm fucking starving. Help me out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they took care of him. And I think it was because so many people knew what he was for so long, but he wasn't willing to accept it. You know what I mean?
And you think that you accepting the scumbag title has improved your life?
It's changed my life forever.
Mm-hmm.
Forever. I don't do much super differently, but I feel happier every day. I feel like I've gotten to the point where if I don't give up out of pure exhaustion and just those moments where you just want to be with your family and do nothing else, if I can get over those little personal humps, I believe that one day I'll be able to get to the point in my life where and success for me is defined by dollars, that I'll be able to even pay back a lot of the people I did wrong.
Yeah, but
like go back.
You're never gonna do that.
Yeah, dude, I've started a lot of it. It's just the process, because if you publicly go out there and start announcing it all the time, everybody's going to want their money now, and that's just not possible. But it's one of those things where, like, yeah, I definitely have done it. And I've even tried to straighten out the situations that I know I don't owe someone money. Like, there are comedians in Connecticut who say I've scammed them, and I know, like, either I paid them back or I did not scam them. And I've even gone back and made them make clear that we're all good. Like, I've tried to resolve as much of it as I can. And that's why I think I'm not, like, locked up somewhere right now.
Well, do you think you're more interested in resolving those relationships for your image's sake, or for, like, something inside you that feels bad?
Yeah, it's like I never wanted those things to really happen. I just felt like I wasn't going to get to where I was unless I became one of those guys who would step on a bunch of people. And I didn't want it to be like that. So the image of who I am now... Does that weigh on
you at all, though? Like, if you are in that scenario and you know that you've done somebody wrong, does that actually weigh on you, or are you able to kind of move past it?
No, it does. It does a lot, every day. And that's the only reason why I'm not able to, like, progress forward as much as well, is because it's weighing on me. But I think that the new fans who will find out, like, the Scumbag Vinny character are more or less going to be supporting me, so I don't have to go back to those ways. Like, more or less, if I can use my experiences to tell my story and educate other people, but also entertain them, have them relate to the material, and still get a laugh out of it, then the money I get from my fans going forward will be more like genuine merch buying, show going, donations, supporting whatever they want to do,
Well, I mean, this is kind of tough for me, because on one hand, you're telling me, like, this is a character, I'm moving past all that. And then on the other hand, you're telling me you have a bunch of Middle Easterners on your front lawn trying to fist fight you.
Well, like, that's why I was saying, like, the resale business is something that's given me a little bit of that excitement I used to get at the beginning of the comedy business. Like, so no one knows who I am.
So that scam, like, so I think it's kind of like this. It's kind of like you scamming is kind of like a kink where you need, like, a healthy outlet for it. So
I need something. Yes.
Yeah, so maybe that's you compartmentalizing it. You're like, do you know what it's like? It's like the TV show Dexter, where he's a serial killer who only, like, kills and tortures other serial killers.
He kills because he has to stay.
Like, that's you with the other scams. That's why you do it as, like, a multi-level marketing operation.
Well, that's why, like, when I used to sell cars, bro, I used to feel so bad about it sometimes. And it was because, like, we would fuck people over so bad, but I was getting, like, a paycheck by the, with taxes coming out and all this legitimate shit.
Yeah, of course.
And I know I just convinced a woman to pay all her money for a car that isn't going to make it back home,
It's got to feel pretty good to rip off somebody who you know is a bad person.
Oh, dude, that's a different story.
Like, and I bet half the people that are showing up at your house for all this junk, I'm sure more than half those people are scum of the earth that it feels amazing to rip these people off.
I gotta tell, like, just one funny story that you'll know about, and it's like, Vinny Brand didn't pay me for 3 weeks, and one day Pete Davidson walked out of his club.
I love that story. Pete Davidson's such a little bitch. I hate Pete Davidson, and I love that whole story.
All right, so Pete Davidson walks out of his club, and I met Pete Davidson years and years and years ago when we first started, and I also caught back up with him about 6 years ago, just outside of the Stress Factory. We just smoked some weed. I became friends with some of his mutual friends, and we're not friends, but, I don't even know if he'll remember me, but, like, the few times we met, he's been super cool and just he's just chill, right? And I don't know if that's...
You're Scumbag Vinny. My dad died in 9/11.
Yeah. So Pete didn't do the show, but he made an announcement on his Instagram that he would give away a free show to people in Connecticut just to fuck Vinny Brand over. And I ended up calling him and saying, like, bro, I have multiple 100-seat venues that I will give you for free. I don't want to be on the show. I don't want to get paid. I just want to help facilitate this because he fucked me for 3 weeks of pay.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of Pete's guys relayed that back to him, and they started contacting me, and then they stopped contacting me, and I realized it wasn't going to happen. But that's okay because I took a shot, you know. But what I did do was I called Vinny Brand, and I started threatening him like fucking Tony Soprano would, that if he didn't pay me, I was going to do this for Pete, you know. And then Vinny Brand sent me a check in the mail.
Holy shit, man.
And
that's some Machiavellian bullshit, man.
And then Vinny Brand just had this different kind of respect for me. You know what I mean? Like he can't tell people he respects and likes me, but he could see some of me in him, and he could just see like, fuck yeah. And then, dude, you know, he had to deal with me on more than one occasion because Vinny Brand tried to cancel my TJ Miller show because he had TJ coming to Bridgeport and TJ wouldn't cancel it. And then when I was managing Artie Lang said that Vinny Beatles got to bring me to the shows, and Artie's manager didn't want that because he was afraid I'd become Artie's manager again. And this is after Artie became sober, by the way. He was actually sober, and he was just afraid that I was going to take Artie away from him again. So, you know, then I got Vinny Brand calling me and begging me not to come to the club, that he'll let me do something else down the road, but Artie, you know, I can't be there, and please don't do it. And that, you know, and then I would say, okay, I don't have to go. And you know, so it's just funny how the tables turned, you know. And I think,
and do you know what it is? People who wheel and deal with power, they really the only way to get respect out of them is when you're able to wield power over them to someone.
Yeah, and that's, so I don't do that with little peons, dude. It's not like I'm gonna go up and make a power move on like some fucking, like, I couldn't even make a power move. I used to make power moves on Pat Oates, to be honest with you.
Well, because he was a power structure in Connecticut when we were doing comedy there.
Taking his job at Joker's Wild was a huge power move for me, you know? And it was more like, go ahead, go beg comics for your job back. You know what I mean? Like, right. You know, and you know, like, so those are the kind of things I'm saying I've done that I've affected the comedy like world, you know? Because like I've come and gone from everywhere almost, you know, like literally. It's just been quite a ride, but
shit, man, it has been.
I
mean, even look at all the things we've talked about. We're talking about, you know, selling stuff out of the garage. We're talking about Bam Margera. We're talking about you taking over Joker's Wild. I mean, it's a lot of shit, you know, and not a lot of time. And obviously, it's like, you know, I can't let you get away with saying all of it was good, but I don't think that is really important at the end of the day, you know, because it's if anything, it's interesting, and I appreciate characters. I appreciate interesting. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need people to be like perfect moral characters. I want people who make fucking stories happen. And it's like, if nothing else, Castle Bam, that was a fucking story, man. That's a fucking story right there.
Yeah, like, I think like I've said this to my wife a few times. I'm like, man, if I never do anything in comedy again, or if something were to happen where it's just like, I don't know, my story's done, I think I've set out what I planned on doing, kind of. I know it sounds weird, but like, I don't know, man. I've done everything I've wanted to do. I've like, I don't need to be on the road every weekend for the next 20 years that other comedians respect me and I know I'm one of the best. Like, I've made audiences laugh with my improv ability. I've had wonderful sets. I've performed for packed audiences multiple times again in front of all different kinds of people from all over the world. I haven't done Scumtown in a while, but just the impact that I got from Cumtown and having over 65 countries listen to me talk on the radio, and millions of people know the Scumbag Vinny name now from TikTok and Bam and all these celebrities in Cumtown, and Justin helping me. And I just did a video yesterday. My wife just posted a stupid video on TikTok of me in a hurricane simulator, and it got 1 million views. And I'm just like, you know, I just feel like things are starting to come together for me a little bit. And if something good happens for me, CJ, what I'm saying is, because I've been able to live my dream now, if I'm able to continue to go and grow, I just don't want to leave people behind, even if they hate my guts. I at least want to rectify things the way that I can, because I think that's what will bring this whole thing full circle.
Well, I think this too. It's like, it's definitely. I think it's helped you clear the air on a couple things because there are definitely some things I was confused about, like especially the Joker's Wild thing. I
Bro, that's
assumed that.
crazy.
Yeah, I assumed that you were the last booker for Joker's Wild. I did
You want
not
to hear
realize it was
something
Darren
cool?
Rivera.
You want to hear something cool about Joker's Wild that no one else has ever had the balls to attempt to do? But I actually almost reopened Joker's Wild just a couple years ago. Right after I left the Stress Factory, I contacted Al Martin, who is the owner of
Oh,
Broadway.
of all the fucking people, really. Well,
Well,
I forgot
because
you have a relationship with him. I forgot about that.
he's actually I've never met him in person, but I've done tons of
Really?
shows there. Yeah, I've never met him in person, but I've just for years would do shows there. And at one point, he gave me every Friday night, and I was killing it there.
Jesus Christ.
And so basically, I had pitched to him that like people like Stand Up New York and Fairfield Comedy Club and Stress Factory and comics moving to Connecticut. I'm like, dude, everybody's moving to Connecticut. You need to. I said, all you need to do is pay the lease for me. You book the weekend comedians, and I'll run the restaurant bar and the shows on the side. You don't have to pay me a salary. I'll make all my money from my shows at the door. We'll split all the costs for the restaurant, and we'll split the profit from that. And you don't even got to come here. You take a train once in a while. You come see the shows, blah, 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 blah. And, dude, I ended up calling Annunziata, who was the woman who hated me, but it was Dominic Accarullo's wife, the original owner of Joker's. And I said, I know it's been sitting for a long time. I said, but, it's just a shame to see it sitting there like this, and we'll take everything out of your name. We'll pay you, and we'll pay the lease off and whatever it takes, and we'll buy the place. And she said, okay. Then I hit up Al, and he was getting on a train to come to Joker's Wild to, like, make it happen. It was done. And I went to Joker's Wild about 30 minutes early to him leaving from New York just to make sure everything was good so he didn't come here for nothing. And then she just ghosted me. She must have had a change of heart or said, like, maybe she had this, like, a feeling like she was going to sell her soul to the devil by giving it to me because I had always wanted it and stuff. And, so I actually had that opportunity to reopen the club. But ever since then, and her not answering, it's like, well, what else am I going to do to get it open? I had somebody with the money. It was all done.
What year was this?
This was not long after I opened my own club. Let me go look. Hold on one second.
Oh, this must have been 2017, 2018, maybe,
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, this is when you were doing stuff at the Bijou.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was like in that time where you said I was fucking.
You were going. See, can you really blame these people for pulling the plug on you at that point in time?
Of course not.
Of course, exactly. I mean, come on.
But I was certainly not the reason it was. I was probably one of the biggest reasons it ever was alive in the first place.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I mean, dude, think about it, bro. Every single show on the weekend, they were paying out talent and taking it from profits they made at the bar and with food and beverage. They had too many employees. They never made enough money on the weekends. And the only thing that held them up was the local talent bringing people in. I had started out comedians like Davey Lozano. I had helped put Mike Fenoya on some of his first shows. Okay, I started out Dave Moon.
Mike Fenoya, dude. Mike Fenoya absolutely humiliated himself in the public space with his entry into Compound Media.
Oh, yeah. He's an asshole, man. I seen him at the Comedy Cellar a few years ago, and I was just taking my girl for her birthday to see a show there, and we were in the reserve ticket line because the kid who got me tickets wasn't there yet, and it was raining out. So I had tickets, but it was raining, and we are under an umbrella, and I seen Fenoya standing outside the cellar, and I'm like, yo, Fenoya, what's up? And he just, like, said hi, turned around and walked inside, and I wasn't even, like, doing bad at the time. I was doing great. I just wanted to pay to see Dave Attell, you know?
Yep.
And I don't know, after that, I was just, like, left a sour taste in my mouth, but anyways, I had started a lot of comedians out there who threw a lot of shows there as well. So, like, I think one of their two highest grossing nights ever was a Dave Moon show, and I I know I was probably ahead of that one, but I had one of their highest grossing nights as well. And our people were East Haven people, CJ. So where I grew up and where Dave Moon grew up, we grew up 5 minutes from there. Now, the problem is most of New Haven around them was a lower income area, but East Haven brought the money back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So me and Dave, even though I fucking hate that kid, being there for so long brought them tons of business. And Dave only started comedy because I got him started in it. And, so I don't see many other, like, give me somebody who helped bring money into that place. I mean, somebody.
Some money into Joker's Wild, you're saying?
Yeah. Who? Pat Oates?
I can't think of any. I mean, that business was failing by the time I started getting involved with it around 2014.
Right. So I had actually been there, dude, since 2008, 2009.
Yeah, so you were there for a totally different era than I was.
Exactly. And there was like stuff going on where, you would go into a meeting with these people and you'd be like, okay, so you guys love the crowd I'm bringing in, but what's our advertising budget? And I'm like fucking 18 years old, and they're like, advertising budget? What are you talking about? You get the people in here. They're very old school flyer in hand type shit.
Sure.
And I'm like, all right, well, give me $300 and I'll pack your place. I was doing it already, and I'm like, and they're like, well, what are you gonna buy with it? And I'm like, oh, I'll buy flyers and shit. And they gave me the money. And then, they see the house packed, but they see it's all my friends and family still, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're just like, we want that $300 back, and I'm like, fuck you, dude. What
I
are
filled
you
this
talking
place
about?
up. What are you talking about?
And, I just remember one time, like, them saying, oh, Vinny, we're going to give you the weekend. And I hosted, and, I had this, like, ghetto sweatsuit outfit on for one of the shows. And Annunziata's like, you're really going to dress like that on the weekend? And I just remember being like, I've had 120 people in here rocking out. Like, what are you fucking talking about? And I wore a shirt and tie. Like, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. If you're funny, you're funny. But they had this, like, old school image of, like, bringing in the, the same old comics, dude. The same people who've been on the circuit for years and years. The people now you don't even find headlining clubs anymore. Like Johnny Rizzo and Linda Bell, and oh no, Billy Wynn's here this weekend. And
it's like that. Route 1 in Massachusetts, all those clubs. So like,
bro,
what the
yeah,
fuck? Like the Kowloon. You know the Kowloon?
okay.
It's
No, I don't. But
so it's all the old school Massachusetts guys that have been around since the 80s. It's all
like,
them. They
like
just
all
work the same clubs.
All the people who came up with Lenny Clark, like,
Exactly. Yeah. Actually,
So,
Lenny Clark's brother runs and books one of the clubs. So it's funny you actually brought him up.
So, like, I just felt like, with a broken business, like, at least shaking things up. I don't know, man. I tried. I definitely didn't change.
You tried, man.
I tried. Yeah, we can at least say I tried, right?
Yeah, if nothing else.
If nothing else, I tried to turn that scene around, but it wasn't going to happen, Like, but I did give a lot of comedians their start, and I feel like a lot of comedians wouldn't have got it started if it wasn't for me. I mean, maybe one way or another, but there were a lot of people I legitimately talked into going on stage for their first time.
At the very least, they have a story about you.
I think everybody in Connecticut has one story about me at least.
Well, I remember when me and Liam McGurk, we would go do some of your shows, and we showed up to this one this was you were running this show with this guy named Joey Bail Bonds, which I think you don't have a good relationship with him.
No, I do.
I like Joey Bail Bonds, and we're both into poker. So sometimes,
Joey's great.
Dude, I'll hit up Joey about poker. We'll chat about poker. I like the guy. I haven't talked to him in a while. Actually, if he ends up watching
Joey
this, we gotta catch up.
Yeah, maybe. Joey met me at the height of my bullshit, so he did. Dude, he did run into a bad part of me, but I love that guy.
Dude, this show that we drove like 2.5 hours. This show was such bullshit. Like, we drove out here. It's the middle of Connecticut. It's like kind of by the casinos sort of thing, like in the woods. And
with me?
Yeah, we show up to this bar, and it's a fucking biker bar, and it's packed. It's a Saturday. And on the door, they're like, no gang colors on the door. That's what one of the signs said. And I will never forget this. You get on stage. Well, I use stage in quotes. There's no stage. It's just like a fucking microphone
In front of a fucking
in front of the kitchen. So like
dartboard, yeah.
Yeah, in front of the dartboard. I'm sure. Do you remember what I'm talking about? By the way, maybe you'll remember this.
I do, yeah. Now I do.
Where
Yeah.
so packed bar, nobody's there for the show. It's literally the whole bar is packed, and you have all these chairs set up, and the only space open in the bar is the space for all the chairs. Like every other part of the place is full of people. You take the mic and you go, is anybody here ready for a comedy show? And then the whole bar goes, no. And then you just started anyway. It was like, why do I keep showing up? Because at that point I'm like, I'm the idiot for showing up, is really how I felt about it. And it was it was more funny than anything. I had nothing else to do.
What was funny? You know what the story behind places like that are? Somebody would see me at a legitimate show somewhere, and they would say, I have this bar, because I hate playing bar. I never do bar shows anymore, but why I would take those gigs then, the place is in Durham, Connecticut. It was called Artie's. It's something else now.
That must have been the place.
No, it is the place. It's up near the casino area. Like, yeah, it's up that way. And basically, the only reason I was even in there was one of the places where that guy gave me like $1,000 before we even did anything.
Of course.
And I was
even though that show probably lost him over $1,000 from us just
easily
refusing to not.
He was at the end of his run, and so he was just like ready to close it and was ready to try anything. And somebody's like, "This Vinny will pack your place, or he'll at least entertain your audience, or whatever." And he's like, how much? And I'm like, well, I'll do every week for like 10 weeks, and you got to give me $1,000 up front, which is only $100 a week, and then whatever else we could make, we'll manage. But that $1,000 would be spent in a week, and by like week 5, I'd be like, fuck, I still got to do this, like,
right.
And it sucked, and sometimes I wouldn't, but there was that same bar opened back up as a new name, and they needed like help, and this is right before COVID. I got a call from the new bar owner, and I went and met with him, and he's like, well, how much? And I told him, like, this is what deal I made for the last one, and the shows were always so bad. We had one show there that was fucking awesome. Like, everybody sat down and enjoyed it, And
that's always how that works. Just one of them's good, and then they keep a block of them, and then the rest are horrible.
Yeah, exactly. So I end up like, I'm like, this is how I did it, and the guy gave me $1,000 before I started, and he's like, I can't give you $1,000. It's like, but I'll give you 500, and he gave me 500, and then COVID hit real bad. There was like, I think that
Saved
bar
by the bell.
Dude, I've been paid by a lot of places, and that's one of the things that I would love to clear up. Joey Bonds, people like that, good people who help me out with some money.
That's a good guy.
Yeah,
but it is so funny. It's like, oh yeah, Scumbag Vinny Beetle's business partner Joey Bail Bonds, like, yeah, throwing their fucking comedy shows.
Well, he attracted other bondsmen to want to invest in me.
Why would you want to make enemies with bondsmen? They're so scary.
Well, I didn't want to make enemies with him. I was always upfront with him. It was just that everything I was trying was always losing money. At that time, I wasn't working with any real celebrities, so anything we were doing was like failing, So like Joey,
you're like the fucking, you're like the guy in The Sopranos who has the sporting goods store, and he just ends up in like way too much debt with Tony by accident.
He gets busted out. Has to order like 60 coolers just to pay him back and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
But but Joey's, he hasn't been paid back very much, but I think he came and picked up $100 at a show recently, a couple of years ago or something. He was like one of those guys that invested in me early on, and there was no shot of me, doing anything good, but I had such high hopes and was biting off way more than I can chew at all times, and it was because I felt like I was living it. A lot of people told me your experiences are going to be like the ride as well, like there's might not be a destination, but you'll enjoy getting there.
Yep.
And I just realized, Chris, that the comedy was Wild West, and I was ready to become the new sheriff in town.
Hell yeah. I love that, man. Dude, I think that this seems like a good ending point, honestly.
Thank you so much, man.
Dude, of course. This was a blast.
I'll do it anytime.